Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Oh, yeah!
New week is here. Bull, I haven't seen you in 3 weeks.
I know, it's been a while. Good to see you.
How was vacay?
It was fantastic. I had a great time.
You loved it, didn't you?
It's hard to come back to cold weather, although it was nice when we got back. And it's supposed to get nice again this week, but it's good to be back.
I'm Florida by myself Thursday for about 10 days.
Nice.
So,
where are you going? Same neck of the woods?
No, a little further south, down in Naples.
I was in Naples for 1 day.
Do you like it?
Yeah. I mean, I've been there before because my mom lives in Bonita Springs.
Great.
But so we went down there for the last day and had a good time.
That's awesome.
But there you go.
I'm glad you had fun, man.
It was
you
awesome.
were looking forward to it. You'd said like it's been years since you've done something that long.
Yeah. It's been a while, and it was nice and relaxing. It was perfect. Just
Very
what I was
good.
looking for.
Very good.
And now it's perfect football season.
No, G. Bush didn't drop 100 pounds over the weekend and lose the glasses and grow some dreads.
No, that's not it.
It was going to be OG3 today, and G had to call out sick.
Yeah, he texted me this morning at 10:15 saying, "Hey, I can't come in. I'm sick and my throat's bleeding again."
His throat's what?
God,
bleeding
again.
Wow. And he sent me a picture of a few tissues that did not look very good.
Yeah,
he did not need to send. I trusted his word. I did not need visual evidence.
Yeah, no, that's
He's
extra.
He's
the
used to having
pictures
to
of
deal.
the bleeding throat.
He's used to having to deal with Andy Roth where you need pictures or to get on the phone.
Was that how it worked there?
Oh my God!
If you were sick,
you get harassed.
Take a picture of the thermometer.
I probably shouldn't be saying that, but ask anybody there that's going to be honest. They'll tell you. You get harassed if you call in sick.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Man, we got some nice lights, don't we?
Earl still works there. Sorry, Earl.
Earl's like, don't put me in the middle of this.
Yeah.
We got some nice lights, man.
These are nice lights. These are my favorites.
I'm here, just like the NFL here at UCSS, the QB2 is important. And we
It
got
is.
a lot of quality QB2s here. So
We do. We go deep at quarterback.
Facts.
Yeah.
I know the playbook, so let's do it.
And that's actually going to be a topic on today's show. Is like, how after last year, which was the year of the injured quarterback, how will the market for the backup quarterback be affected by that this year?
Yeah.
We've already seen some movement for guys that are specifically going to be backup quarterbacks, which is somewhat odd. I can't remember a year before where guys were making moves to bring backup quarterbacks into the fold. But we talked about it all during the regular season, and I had several executives tell me that market's going to change.
Yeah.
Because I think the teams had been undervaluing that position, and they saw what happens when you get caught naked without a good backup. And we saw what the Browns were able to do when they brought in a good quality backup. So I think that will reset the market. We're going to talk about that. Maybe not everybody will agree with that point. McNuggets wearing the new school C today. I haven't seen that cap. Is that new for you?
No, they actually gave this out at a game last year.
Oh.
It was under my pile of hats.
So it's just the one you grabbed today.
Well, I got this from the game when you threw out the first pitch. That's exactly what
Oh,
it's from.
okay.
So it's a
Very
season
nice.
and a little, season and a half old. Not in the daily rotation per se, but figured no better day to break it out than the start of free agency and bringing good vibes to Cleveland.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Noon is the witching hour. I think a lot of times the media, I know we got caught doing this a lot. We would tick down to noon and expect the ball was going to drop and all hell was going to break loose. And it's more like a slow opening of the door and a few sneak out.
It depends on the year. Some years it does go crazy.
Last
year
past,
it did not.
Last year was almost quiet.
We set up the whole day last year for it, and we was just all sitting here trying to find other conversations.
Yeah, that happens. But I do think that now, even though you're, this dead period where there's supposed to be no negotiations, that's laughable. These deals have
they're already
leaked out before the deadline. We knew about Baker's deal. We technically knew about the Russ Wilson to
even
Steelers
the trades,
deal,
even
trades
those trades,
as well.
can't happen officially till Wednesday.
It's supposed to be a dead period.
Yeah, right.
That doesn't happen.
By the way, doesn't this sum up for you and me, especially that love baseball, just why football is so much more popular than baseball? Here we are. This week's going to be batshit, crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Of football, and we still have 3 of the 10 best free agents in baseball out there.
That's nuts.
Blake Snell.
Yeah.
Jordan Montgomery.
Well, the big one's gone, isn't he? I mean, the Chiefs re-signing.
No. I'm talking about No, on baseball.
Oh, you're talking about baseball
Yeah,
now.
Blake
Okay.
Snell, Jordan Montgomery, and
Yeah.
J.D. Martinez are still free agents.
And we can't-
With a couple of weeks to go to the season. And all the big football free agents are going to sign in 1 week, pretty much.
This isn't the first year that's happened in
No,
baseball.
it's
and
not.
I don't know what's going on there. I
It's
think teams are
ridiculous.
kind of waiting to see what happens, but
I don't know.
like if you want to make a move, make the move.
I know.
I thought the Guardians might have been in on somebody.
Unfortunately, no. But
But it
that's
hasn't
why.
happened.
But teams are aggressive in football. You're going to see almost every big free agent go off the board by the end of this week. The latest.
Yeah, well, you would think.
Yeah.
And some of them go off the board before the period actually starts.
Yeah.
Browns make a move. We're going to talk about that. In fact, that's going to be our starting point. And also, even though there may not be a floodgate of news tidbits at noon, but we're going to talk. McNuggets did a good job of building some questions that will get us off the free agency pier, and we'll just jump off and talk about some of the things that we know are going to happen. So
Yeah, we missed the ball last year. We thought it was going to be pure chaos at the class. The clock struck noon. There were no free agents, and we didn't have a backup plan. So we kind of just scuttlebutted around for an hour. This time,
Nice.
I built a plan, so we still
We're
have
ready.
some stuff
That's a
to talk
verb.
about.
Yeah.
And I made up a word, scuttlebutt.
Yeah.
Officially birth
Scuttlebutted.
11/06, 3/11/2024.
The act of
Let's
scuttlebutting.
get into our first topic, though, after a quick word from FanDuel. You can get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your team wins. You can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to shoot your shot. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. And today's winning FanDuel ticket comes from Dogecoin McRiblets,
Of course.
who hit a 4-part parlay on UFC 299 this weekend.
Oh, wow.
A money line 4-part parlay turned $6 into $100. So shout out to Dogecoin McRiblets. If you have a winning ticket, send it in. We'll feature it on the show, and you can bet on anything with FanDuel. So continue to bet
Is this-
responsibly.
is he your cousin?
No, but it's a great name.
Yeah.
Dogecoin McRiblets is a great name.
McNuggets. You sure you're not related to him down the McNugget tree family?
Maybe, but no, I am unfamiliar with who Dogecoin McRiblets actually is.
It's a great name.
It is a great name. So shout out to you, Dogecoin McRiblets, a real
And
one.
congrats.
And congrats.
by the
Let's start
way-
with this though, guys. Well, real quick.
Yeah. Go
Jerry
ahead.
Jeudy, because we just a free agency, plenty coming up. But the Browns did start off the offseason by making a major splash on Saturday. Kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, we had talked about Jerry Jeudy in multiple iterations last offseason
Yeah.
at the trade deadline in 2023, but now for a 5th and 6th round draft pick in this upcoming 2024 draft, the Browns have acquired Jerry Jeudy, a former first-round pick. Bull, you did a podcast on it. Earl, you and I went live. Jay, we haven't heard your thoughts.
Yeah.
Initial impressions, initial thoughts on the Browns acquiring Jerry
Bull's got
Jeudy.
something
Yeah,
he wants to say
real
first.
quick, I just want to say this is how popular the Browns are. That they traded for a receiver, and these guys went and did a breaking news show live on Saturday. At last check, it had 30,000 views.
That's insane.
32.
I did a podcast on it Saturday. At last check, it had almost 14,000 views. So 44 between the two shows.
And we're 7
on a
months
weekend.
from our next game.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
It really is
Yeah.
nuts. But I mean, if anybody, when I was in Arizona, I was talking to somebody who used to live in Cleveland, and he watches the show, and he said, "Yeah, I noticed that you guys really are. It's like the ultimate Brown sports show." And he was a big Guardians fan. He was
Yeah.
there at spring training, and I said, "We're the ultimate Cleveland sports show, but let's face it." He goes, "When I left Cleveland in the mid '90s for Arizona, it wasn't that way." And I go, "Well, no, the Browns were about to leave,
Yeah.
and the Indians were flipping the switch."
Yeah.
And they were about to become the relevant team. He's like, yeah, but there's no denying it now. Like, I can just tell by the amount of Guardians news
That's
you
right.
do compared to the amount of Browns news.
Yeah.
It's a Browns town, whether anybody likes it or not. It doesn't matter. It is, and the fans go nuts for any little nugget. I don't know. I haven't heard
Yeah.
anything, so I don't know where you guys are on this. But I wasn't like doing backflips over this move. I'm glad we have him. We didn't give up a lot to get him, but we only have him for 17 games. So I don't really think that this is. I'm pleased for next year, and it does buy them time to build a bridge to when they do have a wide receiver room that we like, not just the front office, but a wide receiver room that we like. Is the wide receiver room better? Unquestionably. Jerry Jeudy's a guy who is still. You can't talk about his transition from Alabama to the NFL without saying potential. And so he's still a guy that hasn't tapped into all of that potential that we thought was there. But for some reason, he's been an enigma. The production doesn't match what we think is the skill set. So for me, I'm glad. I'd rather have him than not. And we've pissed away 5th and 6th round picks in the past.
Sure.
These 2 picks, we turned into something that we know is a tangible player. We don't. He's not a superstar, but he's better than any wide receiver we have. Not another Alabama alum. So, I mean, from that standpoint, I think the room got better, but I like it. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I like it.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I'd give it a B overall. I can't give it an A because he's not a superstar.
Right.
He's a good player.
Does it bother you that they only have him for the 1 year?
It doesn't. In fact, I like it because that's part of the reason I like it right now. Because let's say he has a great season.
Right.
Yeah, it'll cost you more to sign him. But if he has a great season, you got first dibs at him. Whether it's franchising him or whatever you want to do.
That would be, I mean, I don't see him going into the franchise realm, do you?
Probably not, but I'm just saying, let's say he has a magnificent season. He has 1,400 yards, something crazy happens.
Then you do it. I get
then
that.
you have some, by being the team that has him, if they had given up a lot for him, I'd be like, well, I don't know, maybe. But a 5th and 6th round pick to me is essentially nothing. They have other 5th and 6th round picks.
They do.
He's been a good, solid player. The potential is the big word. I like that he's with Amari Cooper was basically his idol. He has said that one of the reasons he went to Alabama is because of Amari Cooper. So I think Amari Cooper, who's a rock solid NFL guy and player, will be a good influence for him.
I agree.
Now his inconsistency, I know the Broncos play-by-play guy was on with Ken and Lyman this morning. He talked about, hey, he's inconsistent in terms of holding on to the ball. You don't love to hear that. But he's a good route runner. He's got very good speed. I think worst case scenario, he's an 800-yard receiver.
Which would make him number 2.
Make him number 2,
room.
no doubt. He is a legitimate number 2 receiver with, I think, the potential upside to be a bottom-tier number 1 guy. I think he's somewhere probably between 30 and 40 in the NFL, which is way better than Elijah Moore, who's between 60 and 80 in the NFL.
But is he better than David Bell?
It's close, but I'm going to have to say yes.
It's a stretch.
Yeah.
What do you think?
You know, I came back down here yesterday. I did another show yesterday, Fed the City at 1:30, a follow-up on Jerry Jeudy, and then the title of my show was Why I Believe That He Can Reach His Full Potential Here in Cleveland.
Wow.
I really like the trade. I gave the trade an A before you go crazy on me. This is why. The Browns had 2 5th-round picks, 2 6th-round picks.
Sure.
You parted with 2 of those, and you still have a 5th and a 6th to use at your disposal. You're getting a dude who's been in the NFL for 4 years that was a first-round pick. There's a lot of potential there, the word that we continue to use. Yeah. A lot of untapped potential there. But he fits the bill of what the Cleveland Browns are trying to do this year. 6'1", ran a 4.4 40 in a 40-yard dash during the combine. He's a vertical threat. Since 2022, he has 10 receptions of 40 yards or more. Amari Cooper has 12. So now you have 2 targets on the outside that can stretch the field and hopefully create space underneath for guys like Elijah Moore, David Bell, etc. I think this is a low risk, high reward type of move. Yeah, you have him for 1 year, but Andrew Berry has been proven to be able to work some magic in the past. So, you know, I read an article by Mary Kay Cabot to where he can add some void years, restructure that $12.9 million, turn it into like a roster bonus. So there's a potential that he's here longer than just the 1 year.
Let me ask you this on that, because I read that too. Are you willing to roll the dice and offer an extension to Jeudy before you see him in a Browns uniform?
I would not.
No, I want to see him play.
Okay, yeah, I do too. I do too.
I want to see him play.
Maybe you can have that conversation in October, but if he's having a great year, he's going to want to hit the market.
Right, but I want to see him in his
I
contract
do too.
year.
Yeah, I do too.
You know, he's 24 years old. He'll be 25 next month. So there's some immaturity issues. There's some issues with him being consistent. But I think, you know, often just like in real life, when you get a fresh start, a fresh opportunity in a new place, you know, it kind of like revitalizes you. It revamps your energy. You're going to be in a locker room that has a solid culture. You got guys like Joe Bitonio in that locker room. You got guys like Wyatt Teller in that locker room, Myles Garrett. And then, you know, you got the head coach, Kevin Stefanski, who's even keeled to where it's not cliche in Cleveland. They actually adapt the attitude of the coach.
Yeah.
And all of that can only help him. We all know the situation with Amari Cooper. I call him OG. When you got an OG in a room that you respect, like it does everything it can to help you off the field and on the field. And so if he can go out there and prove himself, the Browns might have a steal.
Yeah.
That's a big might, but they might have a steal.
I think when we, at this point, once T. Higgins and Michael Pittman got franchised and Mike Evans re-signed with Tampa,
Which we expected all those moves to happen.
You looked at what was best. We all said they had to get an upgraded wide receiver too.
Yeah.
Well, who were the options? Mike Williams, Calvin Ridley, and Marquise Brown. And I think this guy is right there in that same group. There's a group of like 12 guys, 14 guys, whatever it might be, that are in that tier of upper end twos, maybe if they play at their best, lower end ones. And he's got as much potential as any of them because he's younger than all those guys.
I like that part of it a
Yes.
lot.
Yeah.
I do. Now, granted, it might just be a one-year vacation for him here, but if they can come to some sort of an agreement after the season without franchising him, because I
doubt it goes that way.
That'd be a problem they would love to have.
Yes, sure.
So what I like about Andrew Berry is I kind of liken this to the Amari Cooper trade. Now, granted, the skill set isn't as high.
Right.
But he was a player who I think his team had sort of felt he had hit a glass
They
ceiling.
wrote him off. They said he was
Dallas felt he was done. I think Denver, I don't know that Denver necessarily thinks he's done, but they think they got the most out of him that they could.
Right.
Now,
and
doesn't
they need
mean
to
that-
clear a lot of cap because of Russell Wilson's situation.
that
Yeah.
move, man, oh
Yeah.
man, did that leave a dent.
Right.
So that actually played into Andrew Berry's hands. I started thinking after I read about the trade, when Berry, I wish he would have pulled the trigger on it last year. I don't know what the asking price was last year. I would
like
love
They
to
wanted
know.
a second
First
round
or
pick last
second
year.
round.
I was
Supposedly they
sure
wanted
that it was
a se-
second because I'd
supposedly.
also heard. Yeah, I'd also
Yeah.
heard that it was a fourth and a fifth.
Yeah, I don't
at
know.
the end.
Well, if it was a fourth and a fifth, they should have done it.
I don't know. I haven't.
Yeah.
Nobody else. I read that there were rumors that it started at a second and it ended as a fourth and a fifth.
Yeah, who knows?
I
at
mean,
this point. Yeah.
we didn't get him. We didn't
Yeah.
get him. That's fine. It's water under the bridge. But what I like about Andrew Berry is when he did the Amari Cooper move, I think everybody was excited because he was a name and he was a name brand, and we knew about his time at Alabama. And this is kind of Amari Cooper light, really. He's got the same pedigree from Alabama. I think Amari had stamped his NFL credentials better.
Yeah, he was older
more
and
of a
had been
proven
more
player.
proven,
yeah.
yeah.
But this could be a trade where you're getting Amari Cooper 3 years before you got Amari Cooper, and we might be able
Absolutely.
to. We might be able to reap the benefits of him developing because I do think there are maturity issues. I've talked to friends that covered the Broncos, and they said, "Look, no individual stories, but we would be remiss if we didn't tell you that there was some baggage while he
Did you
was
talk to
here."
Schlereth?
I did not.
Okay.
I called.
Did you see his video?
I texted him. No, what did he say?
I mean, he just destroyed him in a video.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, I mean, he said, I don't remember the exact words that he used, but he crushed him in a video.
Mark
He
is
essentially
a
said-
team got like a chemistry guy.
Yeah.
Very important. He had some incredible things that he told me that I've never even repeated about Maurice Clarett that I've talked to Maurice about, and he said those were absolutely true.
Yeah.
But I think Schlereth is a guy that was always a good locker room guy, was always a good chemistry guy. His concerns about him would scare me. Mecklenburg came out, I saw, and crushed Russell Wilson. And Mecklenburg was the kind of counterpart to Schlereth.
Yeah.
On the defensive side.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a red flag.
Yeah,
to me.
yeah.
Because I really do trust Stink.
Yeah.
If Mark says it, it's probably
But
true.
he's 24 years old, and I don't know too many people that's 24 years old that don't have some maturity issues. I think the difference between he and I at 24 years old is my life was not put on public display on a consistent basis.
Sure.
And so I had the opportunity to mature and grow up for the most part
out of the
behind
spotlight.
scenes. And so, there is some maturity issues there, but, I kind of lean on the side of let's just hope being in this environment helps him grow up, helps him mature. I can't let that scare me away because if realistically, what 24-year-old don't have issues with maturity?
Yeah, no, that's
It's
true.
funny to think about the Browns being a good environment because for decades
They wasn't.
they've been a bad environment.
You're right, but I
Yeah.
think
I think they are a
that
good
goes back to
environment right
Jarvis
now.
Landry. One of
Yeah.
the things that the Browns credited Jarvis for when they decided not to bring him back was the fact that he helped turn the culture around with this organization. And I think it has stayed in the direction Jarvis pointed it, and it hasn't flipped back the other way. Let's hope it doesn't.
Well, they've had stability here for a little bit for the first time in a while.
No,
that
that's
helps.
true.
Another thing you said that I thought about, and I told Mike this, you mentioned, Denver might have felt like they got the most out of Jerry Jeudy there. And I likened that to a player like Marshawn Lynch when he was drafted by Buffalo.
Sure.
And there were some maturity issues and things really didn't work out there. He ends up in Seattle and he turns into beast mode.
Yeah.
Probably a future Hall of Fame running back, definitely a Super Bowl champion. And so sometimes when you get that second chance in a new city with a new team, that switch can flip.
I think having Amari as a role model, I think he's his role model as a player.
Yeah.
Hey, Jay, real quick, on that, it goes back further than just Bama. They're both from South Florida.
Oh, I know. No, I know the tie.
And Jeudy idolized Amari since his freshman year of high school. That was the guy he wanted to emulate his entire game after, allowed him to Bama, and then emulated what he did at Alabama almost to copy and paste success.
We're talking about on the gridiron.
No, I know. I'm just saying it goes way back there.
He's never had a chance to spend time around him.
Right.
On this, what my hope is that he watches how he comports himself, and he watches how Amari Cooper's a pro's pro.
Definitely.
He's a Nick Chubb. He goes about his business.
Yeah.
He doesn't make a lot of waves. He just makes plays. And my hope is that once Jerry Jeudy goes through training camp and he gets a look at his idol up close and gets to eyeball him, he'll realize that, there's a second piece to being the player you are.
Yeah.
And it's how you handle yourself in practice. It's how you handle yourself in the locker room. It's how you handle yourself with your teammates and in public. My hope is that Amari Cooper takes him under his wing, not as a football player, but as a young professional, and teaches him how to be a pro. He can make a ton of money if he does this the right way.
Yeah, no doubt about it, because if he has a great season this year, he's going to get a huge contract because he was a first-round pick and he's still very young. But he's right now, like if I'm Jerry Jeudy, I'm thinking, man, this is embarrassing. I just got traded. I was a first-round pick. I've been maybe bust is too strong, but I've been a disappointment in the NFL. He's never had 1,000 yards. And I was given away for nothing, and people don't believe in me. So I want to prove myself.
I wonder, though, if he's got that kind of
I don't know.
self-reflection. Because was it he and Steve Smith that had beef?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've known Steve for a long time. He's brash. I get it. I like him personally. His criticism, I thought, of Jerry Jeudy was very fair. The way Jeudy responded, I remember at the time thinking, you know what, I don't want him in an orange hat. I don't.
Well, now he has a chance to turn that around.
Right. And
Yeah.
You touched on something that's very important. You said, if I'm Jerry Jeudy, I'm very embarrassed.
Yeah.
But either Jerry Jeudy was masking when he made his retort to Steve Smith's original criticism, which I thought was on point, but either he was masking it or he's completely head insane and he just doesn't believe it.
Yeah.
And I hope it's the first. I hope that
I think
he knows, and that's why he was so sensitive to that criticism.
I think
because he knows it's true.
But to Bull's point, even if he is embarrassed, if I'm somebody that care about him, I'm letting that young man know right now there's a thing called humility before honor. And sometimes you got to take a step back or be embarrassed before you actually fulfill your potential.
Well, that's
but then
good
to your
advice.
point about, him and Amari helping him as a man, I say all the time, iron sharpens iron, as one person better than another. Chad Johnson had the funniest analogy of this whole thing. He said the Browns got two dudes from Dade County that's assassin route runners that create more separation than divorce attorneys.
He's not wrong on any of that analysis, by the way.
I mean, that is a good line.
That's a ringing endorsement right there.
I've never heard of that separation.
Amari's got to talk to, it's got to be about the consistency.
Yeah.
He's been an up and down player in his career. At the end of the 22 season, I want to say the last 6 weeks, I don't remember the exact time frame, he had this great stretch, and it was like, okay, here he goes.
Yeah.
And then last year he had a disappointing season.
Do you point to Russell Wilson for any of the Russell
guess.
Wilson experiment in Seattle, or in Denver?
Mm-hmm.
I think that it kind of takes the Browns off the hook a little bit with the Deshaun Watson thing. I think what happened in Denver now has finality to it.
Yes.
It can never be a success.
Right. Now,
it will always be bookmarked as a colossal organizational fail.
that is absolutely true, although I would argue Russell Wilson was better in Denver than Deshaun Watson has been to this point in Cleveland.
That's true.
I don't know. All I see is $85 million. Every time I hear the Broncos now,
Well, the Browns
$85 million.
might, if Deshaun doesn't turn it around this year, we might see the same thing with the Browns next year. But yes, with the
Could.
Broncos, it's over. And with the Broncos, it was an
Deshaun
old.
can still make it good.
Yes, the Broncos. You're talking about an older quarterback, so
Right.
maybe they should have known better. With the Browns, There was every reason to believe, but, that's it. One more thing on this in terms of, whether he gets it because of the humiliation and will he be humbled, and because he could turn his whole career around and become a great player.
He could.
It reminds me of, I know you're not a huge fan of the movie, but you'll remember this part, from Moneyball.
Yeah.
Okay? There was a scene where the players were starting to buy into the Moneyball stuff, and the one guy who wasn't was David Justice.
Yeah.
And Brad Pitt, character, goes up to the guy, whoever the guy was.
Billy Bean.
Yeah. And he goes, you might want to come around here. The Yankees had to pay us to take you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that was a humbling moment.
And it was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. I might not be the player I think I am.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, listen, I have all the hopes in the world that Jerry Jeudy becomes the player he can be. I don't know him from Adam. I've never met him. I don't know what kind of person he is. To your point earlier, when we were all 24 once, and God, I'm so glad that we weren't judged under a public microscope for our maturity level.
Yeah.
I would have failed that test miserably. I
Me
probably
too.
would have failed that test at 34. Okay,
yes.
It took me a minute. It took me a minute for sure. But I'll say this: I think this is a good petri dish for him to grow.
Sure.
Which I wouldn't have said that 5 years ago about this organization.
And realistically, what's the downside? Let's say he's just what he's been in his career, and he has 783 yards. Well, it's still better than Elijah Moore.
Yeah, you gave up a 5th and 6. It's better than giving up 2/3
Right.
Schwartz and Bell.
Yeah,
that
right.
You got almost nothing out of.
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
So, all right, we're going to turn the page, right?
Yeah, we're going to talk Cavs for a few minutes, then we'll do some more other NFL topics as we get you all ready for the start of free agency. The Cavs are home tonight against the Phoenix Suns, and if you want to go, you can get last-minute tickets using the Game Time app. It is the fastest, easiest, and best way to get all your tickets for sporting events, music shows, comedy, and theater events in the greater Cleveland area. They have killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Make sure that you can get the cheapest tickets on the market. If you find a seat on another app in the same section and row that you're buying in, and they're cheaper, well, Price Time will give you 110% credit, so you get another ticket for free down the road. It's simple. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Guys, the Cavs have had quite the up and down last few weeks. They beat Dallas on a buzzer beater. They lose to Chicago the next day. They beat Boston in a heroic 20-point comeback in the fourth quarter led by Dean Wade. They lose to Atlanta the following night. Then they beat Minnesota on Friday, minus Max Strus and Donovan Mitchell. And then they come out on Sunday and lose by 20 to the Brooklyn Nets. I'm not quite sure how to quantify the highs and lows of this last 3-week stretch here. So I'm curious how you guys are looking at this team now, knowing even without Donovan, they could beat the best in the NBA. And they could also lose to just about anyone on any given night.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like the inconsistencies. I would almost rather you beat all of the teams that are 3 seeds or lower, and your losses come to the 1s and 2s in close games. What they've done over the last 8 games is statistically very, very, very difficult to do. Here's what they've done. Lose, win, lose, win, lose, win, lose, win. Going back their last 12. Before that 8-game stretch started, they went loss, loss, win, win. Loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win. There is absolutely no rhyme or reason to the games they win or the games they lose. While it was unbelievable that they were able to have the 2 wins against the 2 1 seeds in respective conferences, and I was stoked about those, they go out and lose on the back ends of those to teams that they should have boat raced. And the standings don't understand who you win and who you lose to. So it really is a virtual wash had they lost to Boston and Minnesota, but managed to beat Brooklyn and Atlanta. Now, I know down the road you have in your mind, we beat them, we know, but we also know that those wins do not translate to postseason results. And I'm very worried about this team because I think they've got a lot of potential, but I still don't think they know who they are.
You said something and it made me think. You know how, like, sometimes you got to kind of, like, piss somebody off or hurt their feelings to motivate them, to get the best out of them.
Yeah, you're right.
That remind me of the Cleveland Cavaliers right now. Those two big wins that you just alluded to, they came after a horrible last loss to teams that you should have beat.
Sure.
And we talk all the time about teams and athletes hearing the noise. Man, we was on this show. Other sports media outlets was calling the Cavs soft, wondering what the hell is going on. Did the bottom fall out, etc. And every single time we come on these shows and we have that type of talk, the Cavs show up the very next night and they show the hell out, right? They show the hell out. They got us feeling good again, and then you consistently play down to your next opponent. The Nets was a team that you should have beat last night. Yeah. I get it, you're dealing with injuries, but you're a better team than they are. You have a more quality roster than what they have. There's no excuse for the level of inconsistencies that they're putting on the display on a consistent basis. They're consistently inconsistent, from the coach to some of the core players on the team.
I think everybody is out of pocket when it comes to the Cavaliers. I was listening to the fan when G. Bush and Earl were on Saturday, and G's screaming about Amani Bates. He wants the Amani Bates. I don't give a rat's ass about Amani Bates. I love you, G, and I wish you were here today so I could yell at you in person. Not really yell. But I'm like, I don't care about Amani. First of all, why would anybody care that they lost to the Nets? That's a bad loss. Who gives a shit? It's the regular season against a meaningless team. They had half their team hurt. Mike, how many good players for the Cavs didn't play yesterday?
Mitchell sat, Strus sat, Mobley sat, 3 or 5 starters out.
So are they better than the Nets without those guys?
I still think they should have won at home.
Like, who cares? What does it mean?
But boy, that's
what
like you telling people how to fan. Just because you don't care don't mean the fans don't care.
Okay, but you're saying it's bad. I'm saying who cares?
I think it's bad. You think it was a bad loss too, right?
But who cares? It's a bad loss.
Listen, that's a bad
they
loss.
They don't have to beat those teams.
I don't think there's any question that those were bad losses.
That's a bad
Atlanta,
loss.
I throw Atlanta in there.
But it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Those are the teams. Those teams don't matter. They've shown you when they want to, they can play with the good teams, and they've played great. Outside of the Knicks, they've played great. Is it going to translate to the playoffs? We won't know till we get there. So if we're going to say that, well, they've proven they can win, but it doesn't matter, then what do the losses matter? Who cares? You think
the wins matter and the losses matter? How much they matter is a question. Whether in your view, then you can't say that the bad losses don't matter, but the great wins do.
It's just. I don't think the good wins mean that much. They don't. And I don't think the losses mean that much.
Then you're being consistent, and I got no beef with that.
Yeah, that's fair.
However,
that's fair.
I think where I was is you get on these highs after they beat the Bostons and the Minnesotas, and then you see what they also can do when they just take their foot off the gas. Now, I want to point one thing out. They still have the fewest losses on the road in the NBA.
That's right.
Last year, the one beef that I had about this team that won 52 games was, why are they so shitty on the road?
That's right.
Like they were awful on the
right.
road.
And
inexplicably bad. And I think, JB, you can't wave a magic wand and say, we're going to fix everything in 1 year.
Yeah.
We're going to be a great road team. We're going to make deep strides into the playoffs.
Right.
I think JB had a conversation with this club before the season started and said, look, if you want to be successful in the NBA after the regular season, you have to win in hostile environments. I want our team this year to focus on games on the road. We were awful last year on the road. For this year, for the Guardians, the message at spring training was, we've got to be better in one-run games. 31 losses last year in one-run games. Win half of those, you walk to a division title. And I like that. You pick one thing. You can't say, well, we got to be better on the road. We got to do this. We got to do that. Micromanage. For the Browns last year, it was, we're going to beef up the defensive front, and then next year we're going to beef up the wide receiver. Can't do everything at once. And I like that approach. And I do want to point out that the Cavs have been they're the best road team in the NBA
exactly.
this year.
And the thing is, what they've done in the last couple of weeks, it's all meaningless because they don't have Donovan Mitchell, their best player.
Well,
if the Cavs don't have Donovan Mitchell...
Mitchell's only been out 5 games, right?
How many games?
I think 5.
He's missed the last 4. I want to say he's missed like 8.
He's not playing tonight.
Right.
So he's missed like 7 to 8 total since the All-Star break, right?
Yeah, because he missed the first couple.
So he's only how many games has he played since the All-Star break, Mike? Can you look at that?
Like 2 or 3.
I think it's 3. I'll double check right now.
Here's the bottom line. The Cavs have 0 chance of winning anything without Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs. Fair?
That's
right?
a fact.
Right.
They're not winning anything.
I mean, you
so
take
what's the
any
difference
team's
in
best
these games?
player off their roster, they're not going to win.
Everybody overreacted to the Knick game. They're soft. You know, listen, I don't think they're soft. They played poorly against the Knicks. The Knicks seem to have their number. We'll see. The Cavs, I believe, beat the Knicks in the regular season last year, and that didn't mean anything in the playoffs. So, as we say all the time, nothing necessarily translates. I like that they played hard against the Celtics. I like that they played hard against Minnesota. They played a terrible game yesterday, but they had they had Mobley's brother playing half the game. That's how thin they were.
Here's a positive and a negative. I do agree. You can't get too high or too low on wins or losses in the regular season. Here's the positive. Since January 1st, the Cavs have either the best record or the second best record overall in the NBA.
Then why are we talking about them as if they're a bad team?
I don't think that's true anymore.
So the first or the second. I'm not sure exactly which one.
They were first.
Here's the thing that
but now, I mean,
here's the thing that irritates me. That's the positive.
In their last 13 games.
That's the positive. Here's the thing that irritates me. And this is just a personal thing. I like consistency in your mentality, right? It just makes me nervous that I know I have a team that can play up to any level of competition.
Yeah.
And when they know they're playing a team that's not as good, they kind of get lax.
And
that just makes me worried.
And name me a team in the East that doesn't play that way, except for maybe
Boston. I think Boston.
The difference between Boston and the Cavs is Boston is a veteran team.
Boston's a better team. They have more talent.
Veteran. They can turn it off.
Okay, besides Boston, who else doesn't have that?
Nobody else has played that way this year,
though. That's what I'm saying. Boston is the measuring stick.
I'm just saying, like, it's the regular season in the NBA. Every team's inconsistent.
That's why I understand. You can't get too high or low over wins and losses, but I still feel the way I feel. It worries me that they're inconsistent by playing up and down.
I want to bring Mike in, guys. Because Mike is, I think, the professor of this.
Mike, please tell everybody they're crazy. The way I've been hearing G. Bush talk about the Cavs, you'd think they were 20 games under 500.
Well, the Imani Bates stuff, I don't get. I love G too, but he's basically he pointed out that Dean Wade was out there.
Dean Wade didn't even play yesterday.
No, but I mean, we saw Dean Wade put a team on its back and look like
Dean
Dwayne Wade.
The Dean Wade slander from G. Bush is
I did not understand that at all, especially for Imani Bates. Like, I know he loves Imani Bates. Imani Bates has had a very, very small appetizer at the NBA level and has been flat out atrocious.
If they thought he could help an NBA team, he'd be playing.
He would be here.
Yeah.
He would be here.
Go ahead, Mike.
My 2 cents real quick.
Yeah.
Last night's game, I was there. Weird energy. It was really low energy from everyone on the court to the people in the upper deck.
Did the team feed off the crowd, or did the crowd feed off the team?
I feel like the crowd felt off the team. Team just didn't really.
I agree with that.
Team didn't really feel like they were locked into it. It is what it is. It happens. The game's over. They play the Suns tonight. If outside of talking about this for 5 minutes, I wouldn't look 1 second further into this loss. I really wouldn't.
Are you so the 18-2?
Yeah.
18 wins in 20 games, and then you juxtapose that with 6-7.
Yeah, I think one thing we overlooked in that 18-2 stretch, and then we'll move on and talk a little more football, was during that 20-game period, Donovan Mitchell was playing the best basketball of his entire career and was playing.
Can we talk further about that? Why do we think?
I mean, he was making every shot. His shooting percentages were way
right. But
higher than.
Do you think that what was different? Like, you always look for the control and the experiment.
He still takes good shots. He's just not shooting as well as he was when he makes 45% of his threes versus 40%. It just opens up more. He was playing the best he ever played in his career, and Jared Allen was playing the best stretch he's played. So you had 2 players.
Do you think that's coincidental, or was that situational?
Can both be true at the same time?
I think they are not mutually exclusive. Yeah,
I think in that case, yeah. Which, and I've changed my opinion. I'm all for 4 out, 1 in. I don't think Mobley and Allen fit together in crunch time anymore.
I'm all for that.
I've changed my opinion on that.
Wow.
But I do think in the 18-2 stretch, we didn't give enough credit to how well Donovan specifically was playing during that 20-game stretch, and Allen, and that's just an unsustainable level for anyone not named Jokic, Giannis,
Well,
LeBron.
what I'm wondering is the reason I'm trying to lead you to the water that you don't want to drink. I asked you, was that situational or was that just coincidental? And I think, for me, I think that they stumbled upon this magical lineup that worked. We saw it with
the
our
schedule
eyes.
also sucked. I mean, they played a lot.
The schedule sucked, but they were winning by 30 points a night.
Yeah, I mean, it's all.
I think we got to see it again now that Mobley's kind of out of the mix for the rest of the regular season at least.
But I think Garland has a lot to do with
the consistency with Garland's an issue. That's a
now
issue.
I saw Tyvus was singing his praises in the chat the other night with the overtime win, but my issue with Darius Garland, and I'm seeing it more and more and more and more, it's becoming habitual. I have no confidence in him late in the game. We saw in the Boston win, he missed a terrible out-of-control driving layup that Dean Wade came from the rafters and put home. Then he was called for, which was waved off, the last-second foul on the miss. Mm-hmm. Then in the overtime win, he didn't even get his shot off, and I was on the phone with Corey at the time, and I didn't realize that I was ahead of him at the time because he had called me right down the stretch.
Alert. Come on, Jay.
And I said, watch what he does here. He will dribble, and either get a bad shot or turn the ball over. And then I said, oh, my God, I told you. And Corey's like, no, what?
And the
he was a couple
frustrating
seconds
part
behind,
is
and then he saw it.
He got the exact same matchup in overtime against Naz Reid that he got stuffed on the.
Yes, I know he did.
And drove
And
right
Donovan
past
Mitchell's
him
just
and
better
should've
at
I know he
the
did,
ball.
but you know what was funny? There was really no pressure in that overtime period because they built such a big lead. It's in the close and late that he seems to melt down. Do you see any of that, Mike, or am I seeing things that don't exist?
No, his crunch time stuff's legitimately concerning. It's legitimately concerning.
Yeah.
But the good news is when Donovan's in the game, crunch time runs through Donovan. And
Absolutely,
goes back to
as
what he
it
does
should.
best, which is a secondary playmaker.
Yeah.
So.
Couple of quickies before we get back to our football topics. One is a football topic. By the way, I think in the overtime we may talk about Gavin Williams, which is a little concerning.
Yeah, I'm not
Speaking of which,
concerned
how
about
about
that, by the
this? John Heyman just tweeted, Garrett Cole getting an MRI on his elbow, his pitching elbow. The Yankees will be down the tubes if he has. And Michael Pittman, who was franchise tagged, just signed a 3-year extension with the Colts.
I looked it up. Per stat move, since January 1st of this year, Boston has the best record in the NBA, 23-8. The Cavs have the second best record in the NBA, 23-9.
Yep.
Wow.
That is
So,
good,
But
even with the
7 of those
mediocre
losses
stretch.
have come in their last 13 games.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Like if you look at the last 13 game stretch, they're probably in the bottom half of the league.
yeah. So
But that tells you that 18-2 really got them off and running.
Yep.
It was the catalyst to get them into the second seed in the East. Now they got to hold on because Milwaukee's
What
coming.
are they? Are they a half game up?
They're half game down now. Half game.
Oh, they're half game down now.
Yeah, they have one fewer. Same loss to Milwaukee. Milwaukee has one more win.
Okay.
Milwaukee's 42-23. Cleveland 41-23.
The Gavin Williams thing, I think we are going to talk that in overtime.
we're
doing it in overtime,
I
yeah.
don't think I'm not overly concerned
All
about
right,
that
good.
yet. Guys get sore elbows early in the spring.
Yeah.
They just do.
G. Bush is not here at the moment. I don't think he'll be available at 5 o'clock to do the Ultimate Brown Show tonight. However, one of us will fill in. There'll be too much news breaking that I'm sure we will have someone at 5 o'clock hopping in for the Ultimate Brown Show. So be ready for that. Still today, I would expect, one of us, myself, Earl, Bull, somebody, to be on the Ultimate Brown Show today at 5 o'clock.
Maybe
Speaking
all of us, who knows?
Browns news, and former Browns news more specifically, Baker Mayfield, Jay, got a 3-year, $100 million deal from Tampa Bay.
It's your guy.
He pointed that to me, Jay.
He got paid.
money back,
Yeah, he did.
Baker.
Bastard.
How do you
I want
feel for
that
Baker?
money.
In all honesty, Bull, we'll start with you. How do you feel about Baker getting this deal from Tampa Bay?
I actually think this deal makes a lot of sense for Baker. It makes a lot of sense
I
for the
agree.
Buccaneers. It's a good deal. He's not getting top quarterback money because he's not a top quarterback. He's getting most of the – if you're a top 12 quarterback, you keep tacking on to the highest number. And then the quarterbacks like 13 to 20 maybe, they keep tacking on a little bit to that group. You know, like he just, I think, topped the Daniel Jones contract, right? Daniel Jones was coming off his best year as a pro.
And whom the Giants, by the way, are ready to if you
move
listen
on.
to some reports,
Right.
they're ready to do to him what Denver just did to Russ Wilson.
Exactly. And the Buccaneers could probably move on from Baker if he had a bad year after 1 year. Definitely could move on after 2 years. But for Baker, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, he signed for what, $6 million last year, whatever it was.
Yeah,
He's got a guaranteed $50 million. He's going to get paid $30 million this year. It's all guaranteed. He gets $30 million next year, and I believe 20 of it's guaranteed. The third year of the contract is $40 million. None of that's guaranteed. He also has some performance bonuses there, so he can make up to 115. Listen, for Baker, he's got to show he can have back-to-back good years. We talk about lack of consistency. That's been Baker. It's been 1 year good, 1 year bad. If he has
this will be the first year where he has the same offensive coordinator head coach.
No, OC's the new head coach in Carolina.
OC left,
He's the new head coach in Carolina.
so that'll be not 10 in 6 years.
But
Or 11 in
he's
6
still
years.
with the same team. He's got the same weapons. His wide
Yeah.
receivers are
Wow,
not going to change. He's in a solid situation, not an amazing situation, but certainly not a bad situation, in a bad division where they should be in the mix to win that division. So can Baker have back-to-back good years? We'll see. He obviously had a very good season last year. He deserved that contract. I think it's a fair move, good move, both sides.
I agree with you, Bull. I think it's 2 thumbs up for both. I don't think this is a team-friendly deal or a player-friendly deal.
Yeah.
I think this is one of those rare occasions where you can look at the numbers and say, that's appropriate.
Yeah.
I love the fact that the Bucs have an escape clause if it goes south.
Right.
That's where Cleveland, I think, what will separate Cleveland's quarterback deal from all of the other ones is they don't have the luxury. Really, Denver didn't either. With Denver, they just said, we're going to chew the money.
Yeah.
Which is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And it's going to set that franchise back 3 to 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
So,
unless they get lucky with a quarterback in the draft.
which is possible but unlikely at
Yes.
this point. So I think with Baker, he has been playing for this contract for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
His last year in Cleveland,
Yep.
then the weird year where he was Carolina and the Rams.
Yep.
And he still didn't get the money, even though he had some up and some down. He went to Tampa on a 1-year prove it, and I think he proved it. And I think the Bucs are like, this is a check we are glad to write. We think we've answered our question for sure in the short term at quarterback. We hope in the long term. I do think that he's a product of having 2 wonderful wide receivers.
Yeah,
he's
that definitely plays a role. Sure.
A- to A+ wide receivers that he can throw to, and I think
a
that
solid
certainly
running
helps.
back.
But young
running back.
I was surprised. I compared his numbers to Tom Brady. His numbers were better than Tom Brady when Tom Brady had the same weapons, but was clearly at the end of his string. I think it's a good deal again all the way around. Part of the question was that you sent out was, are you happy for Baker? I am happy for Baker. I never had Baker animus or hatred. We didn't always see eye to eye personally, but I do think that he's a guy who does his best work, and this is troubling if you're Tampa Bay. He does his best work when the world says he can't do it.
I mean, usually when we start to believe, that's when it goes south.
As soon as you bite on the hook, he reels you in, and then what does he do?
Yeah.
He goes back to his old ways.
And the question is, has he changed as a person? And will that affect his
consistency? Do you think he has, based on the interviews that you've seen and whatnot?
I think he has to some degree. I don't think he would have, if he had stayed in Cleveland, I don't think he would have had the success he had. I think he needed that slap in the face. We just talked about it with Jerry Jeudy.
I agree with that.
Right?
Yeah.
We'll see if Baker got the slap in the face, and he got humbled last year. There's no doubt about it. And he played listen, he's never going to be a superstar.
I think he was humbled 2 years ago. I think he was at his lowest when Carolina released him.
That was embarrassing.
They're number 32 in the league, and they let him go.
He got benched for P.J. Walker in Carolina.
The question was, are you happy for Baker? Hell yeah, I'm happy for Moneybag Baker, man. Congratulations to you. This is what I tweeted yesterday. I said, dude's career was in limbo. He finally found a way to channel himself and be the best version of Baker he could be, and it got him paid. It might not have worked out in Cleveland, but much love for you doing well, even after this relationship didn't work out. Listen, Earl ain't never been no hater. I'm not built like that. At the end of the day, Baker Mayfield was the quarterback that led the Browns to the playoffs and to a playoff victory that I had never seen.
The
last time the Browns won a playoff game, I was a baby. Didn't know nothing about that.
Right.
So the fact that he's actually moved on, done well for himself, got his act together enough for him to be a starting quarterback in the NFL and get a bag, like, I'm happy for anybody that has success. I personally love a good redemption story. Yeah. Like, I didn't want to see the dude.
I even think Bull softened on Baker a little bit.
I mean, he played well. I call it like I see it.
But I don't even mean. Yeah. I think personally, and I don't know if this is.
It's not like a Trevor Bauer thing where I think the guy's a sleazebag,
Well, you called Baker a douchebag a number of times.
Yes, because sometimes you get caught up in the heat of the moment. You call a guy a douchebag. It happens. And he showed some douchey behavior at times.
He did.
He did.
But
we haven't seen that in Tampa.
No,
kudos
he's kind
to
of
him.
buried that. Yeah.
Kudos. I'm willing to give a guy another chance. He's played well. I give him credit.
Let me ask you this: are you moving forward? Because I know last year I think you're it was kind of a blood sport for you.
Yeah.
Anytime he would throw a pick, he was like, "Yep, crunch time." Baker just threw the pick. Like,
I'm going to let it be at this point.
You're going to let it go.
I'm going to let it be. Okay, by the way,
that's personal growth. By the way,
yeah. Speaking of which,
was it a personal beef against Baker or something?
No. I had no personal.
No, it was never personal.
Oh, was it like you just like?
No,
it was a blood sport for you.
What's that?
It's like, do you have fun at like poking at?
Oh, he loved that bear.
I love that. But by the way, it reminded me that this is the first time we've seen each other since you asked Austin Hedges that question, which I was cracking up. And I loved it. He was like, yeah, I'm not a good hitter.
And you know what? He's hitting 365 with a couple homers, I think.
Hey,
or at least one.
Listen,
And spring training counts.
yeah, right.
It counts for something.
I've always said
the roster decisions are made by what you do in March, believe it or not.
My beef was never that Austin Hedges was on the team. My beef was always that he was the starter.
Yeah,
now that he's a backup, I got no problem with it.
And he's clearly the backup.
Yes.
Some things that we didn't talk about on the show after, because we were kind of crunched on time because it was pegged at the end of the show.
Yeah.
He chuckled. I invited him into the show. He said, "I'd love to come in." He goes, "I'm not afraid.
That'd be awesome.
I'm not afraid of detractors. I've had them my whole career."
And I don't have any I don't.
The funny thing about
guy.
Austin Hedges, and I promise you this, Bill, when you meet the man, you're going to instantly love him.
I know. Everybody says he's the best.
He's just a guy. He's self-deprecating, number one. But I saw some things on the field that I didn't even know about Austin Hedges. First of all, I mentioned every one of the guys said it can't be overstated the importance of having him back in our clubhouse. Antonetti said it. Vogt, who didn't know the clubhouse with him or without him, knows his reputation and knows that every team needs one of those.
Yeah, Francona said it when I interviewed him 2 weeks ago.
Francona loved him.
Yeah, loved him.
Yeah. What I saw from him was they were doing a drill. They're changing some things up on communication between infield and outfield.
Yeah.
Forever, when a ball is hit, what is the protocol? When a ball is hit up in the air and two players coming together.
Got it.
I got it. That's drilled in from 5 years old.
Yep.
Mine, I got it. Wave your arms. Stephen Vogt's changing that.
Really?
Yeah. So he wants there to be a communication leader on all of these what are called circus plays.
Who says, that person tells you.
That person says, get out, get out, get out.
Yeah, okay.
It makes perfect sense. It's a second way to skin a cat, but if you think about it, the player who's calling everyone off doesn't have the best view of everyone. That should be the person who's forward facing.
Right.
The outfielder. He's going to make the judgment call on communication. When he yells, get out, get out, get out, everyone peels and goes. But there was one play where it didn't work. And I think it was one of the young shortstops that dropped the ball. After the play was called, he dropped the ball. Yeah. And our man, Austin Hedges, let him have it.
Yeah, that's good.
And so you need someone like that to hold guys accountable. You've got to catch the ball once you're in position.
That's right.
So I like him. And he has agreed to come in, and he'll do something with Anthony.
That'll be awesome.
Where Anthony dresses as him and he lets him walk through the clubhouse.
That'll be some awesome. Anthony's on a 30-second delay, so when you hear Anthony say, let's go in 20 seconds,
all right, I'll know
he
why.
hears it. We are 8 minutes away from the start of unofficial start of free agency, but as of right now at 11:52, you can say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the upcoming NCAA tournament. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a one seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if their first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win the whole tournament. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and bet on college hoops until they cut the nets down. Guys,
hey, do we have a second to talk about something that Earl just brought up? Because the women's Final Four is here and we're all kind of paying extra attention. If you weren't already excited for the women's tournament, which, by the way, this year...
Oh, the fight?
The LSU, South Carolina, not just the fight, the game.
The game itself.
Then the fight.
The game.
Homeboy jumped the scorer's table.
Yeah, her brother.
I know, to get involved in a women's fight.
Well, who was the one big girl that just knocked the other girl in her ass?
Just absolutely pummeled the LSU girl.
Did you see as of, I don't know if it's changed in the last 2 weeks, but I think as of 2 weeks ago, the average viewer total on Fox was higher for women than men in college basketball.
And you know
I wonder if that's ever happened in any sport before.
It hasn't.
Outside Olympics or something like that.
It hasn't, and it should be.
It's more
the
fun.
games are better.
We know the players.
The play is better.
Yeah.
The games are more hotly contested.
Yeah.
The men's game, I've tried all year.
It's hard to watch.
Cannot get into it. The women always hook me when I turn them on.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great tournament.
The Final Four is going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
And if the teams line up properly, we could have an incredible Final Four.
Well, we could have Ohio State and Iowa here.
In the history of an NCAA.
Well, how about if it's LSU, South Carolina, Ohio State, and Iowa?
So that's the dream scenario.
If the committee is smart, they will find a way to do just that.
Yeah.
Now, you still have UConn.
Still got to win, yeah.
Notre Dame. They've got other teams in there that could, be upset makers.
Juju at USC is the truth. That girl a freshman.
Yes, I know.
She's
She's
the truth.
I just can't wait. I think whatever we get, now we can all talk about our dream scenario. I think, can you imagine a Final Four, LSU, Carolina, Iowa, Ohio State?
Yeah, that would be cool.
Oh, my God.
Future college football in line at SEC versus Big Ten there for
Yes.
the championship. Speaking of overnight moves, real quick, Bull, Russell Wilson was the first, maybe not the first, but the first quarterback domino to fall in this whole quarterback saga. That
I think
includes
Baker was
Baker was
the first.
Right? Baker, we
Well,
know about.
yeah, I didn't think Baker
Because
was
he
ever
could have
gonna
left.
leave,
There
though.
was talk that
No, I
maybe
mean,
Minnesota would be.
His agent
I guess
came
that
out
is
kind of
fair.
put the pressure on Tampa Bay and basically said he wants to play for a contender. And as soon as he started talking about other teams,
Right.
the deal got done.
Especially
So
because
I guess that is fair.
The
I guess
rumor
that's
is
fair.
that Kirk Cousins may be going to Atlanta, and that if that happened, that Minnesota would have been interested in Baker, but it doesn't happen. But obviously, Russell Wilson going to Pittsburgh, certainly that's an upgrade for them. We could crap on Russell Wilson all we want. He hasn't been that good the last few years, but he's clearly better than what they had there. He's at least and really he's perfect for Pittsburgh because they want to run the ball and they want to play. They want to use Russ like they used him in Seattle when he first played in Seattle.
Which is the way I think Russ should be used.
Yes, absolutely.
If you had to pick blame on the whole Russell Wilson experiment, I'm blaming Sean Payton. Now, look, he was forced with Russell Wilson. He didn't say to management,
Right.
Russell Wilson deal was already done. He came in and inherited Russell Wilson. But instead of adapting what he does to what Russell does best, he said, no, I'm the smartest man in the NFL.
I'm about to make him Drew
going to
Brees.
turn him into Drew Brees.
Yeah.
He's not Drew Brees.
No.
He could never be Drew Brees. They're different skill sets. You're right. Pittsburgh is smart enough to say, I think in the end, because it was a one-year deal, I think Pittsburgh is going to come out smelling like a rose on this whole
they're paying
thing.
him $1 million.
It's a no frills deal, and the guy. Look at the quarterbacks in the division now.
Yeah.
You got Russ Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow. I don't know that on name brand alone. Now I know that Russell is this and Deshaun is where is he?
Yeah.
But the other two are young Super Bowl caliber quarterbacks. I can't remember a time when all of the quarterbacks in a division were this good.
This high
or at least
profile.
in name.
Yeah. No doubt. And this is a really smart move by the Steelers. I think it was funny that I saw a lot of Browns fans kind of making fun of Kenny Pickett today. Like, you can't be cocky as a Browns fan making fun of Kenny Pickett. We've had plenty of our Kenny Picketts here in Cleveland.
Nah, I'm a Browns fan.
That's
I
kinda
can be
weak.
cocky all I want to. The hell with the Steelers, boy.
But how can you be cocky? Right now,
Because I
You know what?
can.
The Steelers got it wrong one time.
Hey, let me tell you
But it's
something.
all in good fun, though.
Well,
They're
but
not
here-
doing
no,
it.
it's not in good fun.
No,
People-
they're not doing. These people is
But
not
Earl,
out here just
here's
taking
the
it to
bottom
heart
line.
like that.
As of right now today, the Browns have the worst starting quarterback in the division.
Listen.
As of right now today.
Listen. Listen.
I don't even know if it's really that
the
debatable.
topic is about Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
I was a fan of Russ. He in Pittsburgh, not a hell with Russ. I look at it like this: the Steelers got Russell Wilson, Pittsburgh got Sierra. It's a win-win. It's a win-win for the whole city. But as far as
it's
on
a
the
smart
football
move,
field, like, it's a very smart move. This is a veteran quarterback that's had success, and Pittsburgh has a damn good offense. Right? They got playmakers all over the place. I don't think Mike Tomlin is going to mishandle or misuse Russell
they're
Wilson.
a running team.
I think
They're
they're going
always
to put him in the right situation.
Russ beat the Browns last year when he was miscast on a team that was just all over the place.
Yeah.
Now they had, remember, they didn't they give up 80 points to the Dolphins?
Yeah.
And we thought this is the worst. Like, we thought that Peyton was going to be fired and Russell Wilson was going to be released and the whole thing was going to be set ablaze.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, they turned into this defensive juggernaut and caught fire in a six-game stretch, and we happened to catch them at the tail end of that. But Russ beat the Browns last year with an inferior roster.
And he played well in that game.
Played
He
very well in that game.
He's still a
he was
good
more
player.
of a game manager in that game
Yes.
than a playmaker, but he managed the game well enough to get the win.
Russell Wilson is at worst middle of the road quarterback. Like he's at worst he's 15 to 20.
Is Pittsburgh getting more Seattle Russ or more Denver Russ? Because I think they're getting more Seattle.
They get
Russ.
more Seattle. Russ.
Yeah, but even Denver Russ wasn't horrible. Even Denver Russ was a starting quarterback in the NFL. They didn't have a starting NFL quarterback. That's it. They did not. Now they do. He may not be great. Nobody's arguing that Russell Wilson's great at this point. He's a serviceable player. But if you run the ball as much as they do, he's got two good receivers there. They're going to run it. If he's throwing the ball 18, 20, he doesn't turn the ball over a ton generally.
No.
I think of anybody they could have gotten, there's nobody better. Who could they have gotten? I think Kirk Cousins at this point is a better player, but Kirk Cousins doesn't fit the Steelers the way he plays.
Yeah, and
for the Steelers, there's no better guy they could have gotten.
How concerned are you if you're Pittsburgh about all of the stories that have now come out? There were some that were leaking out during the season.
Yeah.
He had his own office at the facility.
Yeah.
He didn't eat or fraternize with any of the other players. It was Russell off on his own, getting the King's treatment.
Yeah.
How much are you concerned by that? Or do you think that the way that was handled, both publicly in the media and by Sean Payton, who basically said, I'm not here to coddle you. I'm here to coach you.
Before you answer
Maybe that was a life-changing experience for
Before
us.
anyone answers that, happy unofficial start of the tampering.
Yay!
We have made it.
Tampering period
as
has
soon
started.
as a deal gets reported, we have notifications on for
Officially.
every newsbreaker in the business. As soon as a deal comes through, I
We're
will
on
put
it.
it on the show, and we will discuss it live over the next
Bears
hour.
trying to targeting DeAndre Swift. There's your first.
It's
note.
funny you say that because I go back and I try to, from afar, think about the relationship that Mike Tomlin had with Big Ben and how he handled Big Ben versus how he handled everybody else on that team.
Right.
And so I think he's going to take care of his quarterback, like in every sense of the word. Mike said something, I think he posed this question 2 or 3 weeks ago. He said, what would scare you more, Justin Fields in Pittsburgh or Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh? Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh scares me way more
Oh, definitely.
than
he's
Justin
proven.
Fields was.
He's got a
He's
ring.
proven. And
Right.
then you look at the quarterbacks in the division, at one point, Deshaun Watson was touted as a top 5 quarterback. Burrow's a rookie of the year. Lamar's a 2-time MVP, and Russell's a Super Bowl champion.
Yeah, at one time,
this is-
all 4 quarterbacks in this division have been in the top 5 quarterback conversation.
Yes. Yes.
Some of them for their entire career.
Yeah.
I mean, Lamar has pretty much lived there. He fell out for a while, was
Yeah.
on the fringe. But Joe Burrow came in the league, and based on what he did right away, we're like, he's top
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
And
Certainly
Deshaun was
Deshaun
there
was.
for a minute, and I think Russ was there for a stretch too.
The North is lit, and I like
Oh
it.
my goodness!
I like it.
It's just a great move. I agree. I'd rather the Steelers are better off with Russell Wilson because he's a veteran, and I wonder if he had a humbling experience finally.
Yeah,
Mike
that's right.
Tomlin's not putting up with any of that nonsense. Mike
No.
Tomlin runs the Steelers.
And I think Russ knows that. He knows Russ's reputation, Tomlin's reputation. He did treat Ben differently, but I don't think. Remember the Antonio Brown live streaming, the Facebook
Yeah,
Live
yeah, yeah.
in the
Oh, yeah.
locker room, and how
Yeah.
that really was the beginning of the end for
Yeah.
AB. I do think that maybe from some inside the Steelers, there was a thought that maybe Mike is losing the locker room, but I think he quickly made an adjustment, got things back into order, and they're more of the strict team now than
That's
they
a
were the last couple
no-nonsense
years.
dude.
He doesn't put up.
Mike, that.
And you
Mike
know what? He'll
Tomlin
have
was
that.
no
He'll have
nonsense.
that speech with him on day one.
And
He was
again-
on Dungy's staff and
He
and
was
Tampa,
on
right,
Tony
when you
Dungy's
was
and
staff.
there.
they're only
Yeah.
paying Russ $1 million too. So
It's
like
nothing.
They could cut him if it was that bad. I mean, I can't imagine. It
Are
being the
there
case.
are there incentives where he can make more money?
I don't
on
know.
that?
Well, he's
but-
still getting his $40 million
No, I
from
know
the
he
Broncos.
is. No,
Yeah.
I know he is.
I
Didn't
think it's
Russ
just a
come out
straight
and say
veteran
he was
minimum.
willing to take about $1 million though? That he was
I mean-
willing to pay for cheap, play for cheap.
Well, he's not.
I mean, I know what
That-
he's getting from
No,
Denver,
it's
but I'm talking
probably
about
the veteran
No.
minimum.
No, but it doesn't. I don't even know why it's 1.2. Maybe because that money just comes out of the Denver payment. It's not in addition to.
No. Yeah,
So
it just
he's getting-
offsets Denver's
yes,
money to
a
him.
little bit, yes.
He doesn't care. The reason he would be willing to pay for less is because it inflicts more pain on Denver.
Yeah.
I would tell people to go watch his interview on the Pivot with Ryan Clark and them, and he talked about this dude is still trying to chase down Super Bowls. So it'll be interesting to see how these
Yeah.
things turn out. But the AFC North is lit.
Well, look
I
at that
can't
Steelers
wait.
defense. That Steelers defense is, they've got some pieces. Some of them are getting old, but
Yeah.
they're going to be. Man, this is the toughest division of football.
Well, speaking
guys.
of the
Oh, no
AFC
doubt.
North, we have not gotten any deals yet. Christian Wilkins, according to Anna Rossini, top target for many teams, including the Browns, the Texans, Lions, and Vikings. So as soon as we get any official news, we get to it. But
Well, we got the
speaking-
Higgins situation. Michael.
Well, that's what I was getting
Yeah.
to, Bull.
Yeah.
Speaking of other AFC North teams, T. Higgins, your guy, Bull, has requested a trade.
Yeah.
The franchise in Southern Ohio does not have the money Jimmy Haslam does, and now it looks like T. Higgins could be on the move. Bull,
Well, don't
your
give
reaction?
them a pass. They have the money. You know what's funny? The Bengals have actually spent, if you look at dollars spent, more money in free agency the last 4 years than almost any team in football. I saw this the other day.
Are you adding on the Joe Burrow contract though?
No, in free agency, only in guys who are free agents.
What do you on the contract extension to Burrow? Like,
right, I'm not talking about that.
I know, but that kind of is it keeps you from going to free agency.
Sure, but I'm saying in terms of dollars spent on guys who were free agents.
Yeah, okay.
The Bengals have surprisingly the last few years spent a lot of money because for years they never spent.
Right.
And so I can't kill them.
But they also let some guys go too. Didn't they lose a couple of guys last year?
They lost Jesse Bates and Von Bell.
Yeah.
But they had a lot of free agents. But listen, most of their free agent signings have been good signings. They signed Trey Hendrickson, some of these offensive linemen. Anyway, they feel now they could pay both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, but they've decided they're not going to. That they're going to just pay Chase, and I'm okay with that in the end. But T. Higgins wants to get traded. If I'm the Bengals, I don't trade him. What's he going to do? He's not going to sit out.
Well, I can tell you this: there's 3 teams they will not trade him to.
Yeah, of course, not going to trade him in the division.
So I mean, I had some folks reaching out to me like, "Oh, the Browns should make a play for him."
Yeah.
First of all, what are you going to give up?
Yeah, no.
And secondly, Cincinnati won't even pick up the phone.
No.
Why would you? No. And they won't pick it up when Baltimore calls, and they won't pick it up if
they're going to trade him, they're going to trade him to the NFC, most likely.
Yes.
And I doubt they would trade him because T. Higgins really has no leverage.
So
he's not going to sit out.
His situation is
he's got no options this year, right?
Unless he wants to sit out, which why would he do that?
Well, yeah, that's
he's going to get paid
really
over $20 million.
We saw how that worked out with Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
He's not going to do that.
Right.
Cincinnati is in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
And if you hate to lose a guy for nothing, but I think you're right. I think they've made the decision. We know who our epicenter wide receiver is. The guy that the whole universe in that room is going to swirl around. Yeah. Their Amari Cooper is not T. Higgins.
Right.
It's Chase.
Yeah.
So I think Cincinnati's playing it smartly, and I don't think he's going to be available this year.
And I think they have young receivers that they think, I don't agree, but they think could replace him eventually. But I don't think he's going to get traded. I'll be very surprised. We'll see. If somebody blows him away with a first-round pick, maybe.
Right.
This is just open conversation. I'll go back to the year that he was drafted, and I think I had this conversation with you before. Yeah. It's like that year they hit on their first 3 draft picks. It was Burrow, Higgins, and I think it was Luke Wilson.
Yeah.
And you could tell early on that they was going to be in this situation to where they was going to have to make some tough decisions on who they would have to pay. I mean, if they get the right offer, the right call, then I'm letting him go because he's playing for $21 million this year. You probably won't franchise tag him again next year.
No.
I think Jamar Chase is going to be the first wide receiver to see about $35 million a year. So, like, with all that being said,
I don't think he's getting that much.
You don't think so?
That's a big. But you know what?
I mean, that's bold, but I think so.
The reason he might is because as the ceiling cap number goes north, the old wide receiver deal of $20 million, $25 million.
Yeah, it keeps going up.
We've seen that the old quarterback bar was $30 million.
Yeah,
right.
Not anymore.
Not
50,
anymore.
50
we saw
something.
what Baker got, and you're saying that's 12 to 15 tier. So all those numbers keep astonishingly moving up. He might be the first guy to get 35.
Probably won't do this because this team is in the AFC, man. But if I'm Kansas City, I got a first. I know they won't, but I got a first-round pick in 25,
if
26.
You're Cincinnati,
no way
why would you?
They're not doing it. I know. I'm saying they're not doing it, but
in Cincinnati's mind,
it's got to be somebody.
Their
in the
arch
NFC.
nemesis right now isn't Cleveland or Baltimore. It's Kansas City. They're the team standing in the way of them getting to what they want.
I wonder who in the NFC is like tailor-made to go chase it down that would actually trade for T. Higgins right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade him unless I got a first-round pick. If I got a first-round pick, especially because the wide receiver class is so good this year, I would probably trade him for a first-round pick. But anything less than that, I'll
what
let
about
it ride.
Carolina pick 33, first pick in the second round?
I'd consider it. But but Carolina's not going to do that. They're starting over. I mean, they could. It would, he'd be a good guy.
You got to give Bryce Young some weapons.
Yeah.
What about Atlanta?
Man, I just think
pairing with Drake
Bryce
London.
Young experiment is an absolute disaster.
Yeah,
I got to give him more than 1 year though. And he had not much around him. To be fair.
Is he going to grow 5 inches?
No,
because he's going to be 5'10" next year too.
It's not like Baker's tall.
He's 2 inches taller than. Listen, 2 inches doesn't sound like a lot.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about a line that's 6'5" average, I mean, seeing over those linemen, that's a real deal.
But everybody
At 5'10",
And that
bro.
affects Baker sometimes. It affected him.
Absolutely. Look at the balls he gets batted
And
down.
so, yeah, I don't like his prospects. But before I completely write him off, I'll give him one more year, see what he's got.
Okay.
Especially if the talent around him gets better. I mean, they had nothing.
No, they were bare last year.
Let me ask you guys this. No free agents have officially agreed to deals yet or unofficially agreed to deals yet. There was a report that said Calvin Ridley is a top target for the Patriots, Titans, and Panthers also in on the market. And our first deal of the day, Ian Rapport, backup quarterback Brandon Allen signing with the 49ers. So that's the
what
first
we're going with?
official deal.
Isn't that below the line? Isn't that below the line?
Well, I just read it. It literally popped up on my phone as I was reading.
What was the money?
Everything's worth it.
What did you say?
What was the money?
It didn't say the money yet. Just said he agreed to a deal with the 49ers. Let me ask you guys this question, though. After the Jerry Jeudy trade,
Dozens of dollars.
knowing how Andrew
I think
Berry
it's a top five
operates
priority.
on the edges and the fringes in the draft trades, is it fair to call Andrew Berry the most aggressive general manager in the NFL right now?
How would you decide that?
I don't know all the
I
GMs in the
didn't
NFL to kind of.
When you, it was an interesting question because when I first read it last night, I thought, no. But then I thought about what he did last year and all the moves he made on the defensive front. And again, to Bull's point, how do you judge that?
Yeah.
I'm not as intimately familiar with every other team's moves
exactly.
as I am the Browns. But off the top of my head, I would say he is a very aggressive general manager.
No
is
doubt.
he the most aggressive? I don't know.
I would say
But-
he's in the top group of aggressive GMs.
I would too.
That's what I
He's
would
in
say.
the top tier.
tier A.
He's elite.
Yeah.
He's
I
tier
mean, there's
A.
no doubt he is extremely. He's been, and I'll give Jimmy credit for this because he's been willing to spend money. I think the Browns have been. This has been the most aggressive the Browns have been ever, maybe.
John
this
Dorsey
stretch
was John Dorsey was aggressive. I think they run neck and neck in aggression. John Dorsey was really aggressive.
Well, you know what I wonder? I wonder if Jimmy didn't finally come to an epiphany that, the draft is really a freaking crapshoot. I don't know what the hell I'm going to get out of the draft. However, I do know what I'm going to get out of free agency. Bull, you mentioned that the Bengals have really gone all in.
Yeah.
I think that there is a shift in philosophy in the NFL, and it's been going on for a while. I'm not going to purport that it's just like happened the last 2 years. I think it's gradually happened over the last decades, where teams have finally come to the realization that I don't have time to sit around and wait because GMs don't. GMs are on that hot seat the day they sit in it.
That's right.
So are you going to try to get an Anthony Schwartz and a David Bell to save your career? Or are you going to try to get an Amari Cooper and a Jerry Jeudy to save your career?
Listen, when the Rams said F them picks and when they won a Super Bowl, I think every other team in the NFL took notice, right?
That was it.
Because there's more than one way to skin a cat. You can acquire
Yes.
talent in the NFL 3 different ways: via trade, via free agency, and via the draft. And if one ain't working for you, then damn it, you got 2 other options that you can explore to make your team better.
And what I love about what you said is because I do think that the Rams became the poster child for building through free agency for now.
Yeah.
Like, okay, the window's open. We're lacking one piece. Sell the farm and go get it. What I love about what the Rams were able to do was they built through free agency. And then when the prototypical NFL clock says you go from the top of the talent cycle to the bottom every 7 years or so, the Rams said, okay, now we got to hit on the draft. Because that's our asset. That's what we have.
Right.
And we don't have first and seconds.
Hey, Jay, we got some breaking
fifths.
news real quick. We finally have a real deal. The Bears and DeAndre Swift, 3 years, $24 million, according to Mike Garafolo and Ian Rappaport.
Wow.
$8 million a year. $8 million a year.
Yeah, I guess the running back market is not dead because that's
definitely
more.
not.
I was thinking.
Is all that guaranteed, Mike?
This is all
That's
the
the
information.
slogan,
3 year,
bro.
$24 million
That's the slogan
deal.
for you. Running back market ain't
not
dead.
I mean, that's pretty good money for a guy who's only had one good season, really.
You know what? I thought the Eagles misused him last year. I just did. The reason I can say that is he was on my fantasy team. I watched all their
They
games.
kept running one. What's the one dude? Whatever, number 14. They kept running him.
Yeah.
Gainwell or something like that.
Yeah, yes. I just thought that I think Swift's a better player. Now, you make an interesting point. He wasn't the player last year that he was the year before, but I just thought it was a usage problem.
Well, no, I just think he's been inconsistent because he's been hurt a lot. He's been that's been part of it.
I know, but the way they use him
But he's
is
a good
so-
player.
Like, there would be stretches where, and this used to drive me nuts with the Browns too,
Yeah.
but critical stretches in the game, big drives where they don't need to pass. Running the ball would be better.
Yeah.
And the guys on the bench are just not being used.
Yeah, it's an interesting pickup. I was thinking Swift would get about $6 million a year. So the fact that he got $8, means, okay, what's Barkley going to
Bull,
get?
I wonder though.
Well, how does that affect the Nick Chubb situation? If DeAndre Swift's getting $8 million,
Andre Swift's young and healthy,
well,
though.
Here's the thing, though, Bull. I think we're living on 2022 dollars.
Yeah.
We're in the
It's true.
inflationary
The biggest
era
jump of the cap ever.
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
So
Fair point.
6 in 22
Yeah.
turns into 8 in 24.
Yeah, that's
Baker's
fair.
deal 3 for 150 guaranteed. On old dollars, that was probably
It's a good point.
3 for
And so
75.
especially teams that have a lot of cap space, and I think the Bears are one of them, even though they've signed a few guys here before free agency. They've re-signed some guys. The Bears have a lot of cap space. So there's some teams that have like $100 million, $80 million
Which
in
is
cap
stunning,
space.
yeah. Am
I
By
tripping?
the way, Albert Breer just tweeted, nothing definitive, but he said the Browns and Texans expected to be very aggressive in looking at defensive tackles.
Wow.
Which surprises me.
I'm surprised.
I was not expecting to spend big money on D tackle when they did already last year. So that's
I know, but some of those were one-year deals, were they
well,
not?
but they signed what's his name? Oh God,
What was Tomlinson? Tomlinson was
paid him like
He was a
$17 million
3-year
a
deal.
year.
He was a 3-year
3
deal.
for 51. For
Yeah,
Tomlinson.
so usually you don't pay two defensive tackles big money. But
Am I tripping, Bull? So last
Yeah.
year, Chicago was pretty aggressive in free agency. You go sign a back like DeAndre Swift.
yep.
To me, it don't seem like they're tooling up to move on from Justin Fields. It seems like they're tooling up
Well,
to try to see if
I
they
don't know
can.
about that.
Like, and I could be wrong,
Or
but
you can look at it this way. Who's going to pick up the 1,000 yards or on average for 1,000 yards for Justin
right.
Fields out of the running back?
that's
out of the
it
backfield?
too. It's just
So if they are ready to move on, they're going to need a threat in the backfield to run the football. And prior to this trade, it was Justin Fields.
because if I'm DeAndre Swift, yeah, definitely, I damn sure want to get paid.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the conversation is like. But he was just playing for a team that was supposedly a Super Bowl contender. Am
Yeah.
I having a conversation
guys
before
only-
I go there
they
and
want-
say
they
like,
want
hey,
the money.
like, hey, what's the situation here before I sign my name on the
Yeah,
dotted line?
I don't know if we should read too much into it. I think you can look at it
Either
one
way,
of two ways.
yeah.
You can look at it as like, wow, the Bears are really going to be a team that can threaten to move the ball on the ground
Yeah.
compared to, or we're going to lose our best running back in Justin Fields because that's what he was.
Yeah.
We better put someone back there.
The Bengals have re-signed third-string running back Travion Williams.
Huge move. Huge move.
That's it for now. But the Swift thing really, you're right, Jay.
That's a big one.
That really shows you that there's going to be a lot of money spent here this week.
Yeah, there will
Because
be.
for the last bunch of years, running backs have been getting nothing.
Nothing.
And usually the running backs, even the good ones, have had to wait out. Like they weren't signing in the first week because the money wasn't there. The fact that the first big deal of free agency is a running back is kind of telling.
Yeah, I think that the Bears I think they're playing their hand that they are going to move on from Justin Fields. I do. I think
agree.
Because, and they identified the running back that they most wanted,
Yeah.
and they weren't pissing around. They just did it. They got
Where's
it
he
done.
going to end up?
$14 million, by the way, in
Atlanta?
guarantees for Swift. So
14
$24 million
Oh.
total, 14 guaranteed.
Okay.
I wonder if there's
That's-
been a lot of rumors that Kirk Cousins may sign with Atlanta today.
Yeah, like if you do Kirk Cousins, then it probably excludes Justin Fields from going to Atlanta.
Right, and they
I
have traded
thought
him to
that
Minnesota.
I think Pittsburgh was choosing between Justin Fields and Russ Wilson, and the Russ Wilson thing has so much upside.
Yeah.
And
And
there's
it didn't
still
cost
some
them anything.
downside to Justin Fields. You just don't
Right,
know.
plus you
Man.
have to give up at least one draft pick for
Kirk
Justin
Cousins
Fields.
go to
Right.
Atlanta, they instantly compete with Tampa Bay for the division.
That's
well,
true.
hell, they competed last year without him.
Instantly. That's a power move.
Let's think if Cousins ends up in Tampa Bay, and Justin Fields is eventually traded. Let's think about the possible teams that he could end up on. New England,
Didn't they pass on him on the draft for Mac Jones?
but it's a new coach now.
Yeah.
No, Fields was first. Mac Jones was the last guy taken.
Right, that's right. Yeah.
No,
that's
I
right.
think they
Fields-
wanted Justin Fields.
and it doesn't matter anyway because
Didn't
Belichick's
they
not
want
there.
Fields?
Yeah.
But he was gone.
Mac Jones was the last one taken when they picked at 15.
Yeah, Chicago traded up ahead of New England, and they took
Yeah, they
Fields.
traded
What
David
about the
Mouse.
Raiders? How about the Raiders?
Raiders.
Oh, wow, that could be really
Well,
interesting.
players
his
coach?
former offensive coordinator,
Yeah.
Luke Getsy's the new OC in Las Vegas. So that would be a
Yeah.
reunion between
What
those
about
two.
Denver? Denver doesn't have a quarterback.
I don't know if I'm Justin Fields, I don't want to be nowhere near Sean Payton.
Yeah, but he has no say. Listen, let's not go over the
Yeah, I
top.
just don't.
Sean Payton won a lot of games in New Orleans. I know last year he didn't have his best season.
That was a while ago,
But-
though, boy. That was a while ago. That's all I'm saying.
First of all, Justin Fields has no say. If he gets traded, he's got to go where he's got to go.
well, I agree with that. He ain't got
Yeah.
no say, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, but if you made your feelings aware that like you didn't want to be in it, like they'd be foolish to trade for him if he publicly came out and said, "I don't want to be in Denver," because then you're renting a player, and they don't want a bridge. See, in Pittsburgh, the only good thing for the Browns with the Russ Wilson deal, he's a bridge.
he's a bridge.
Right.
He's not a
Well,
franchise.
Justin Fields on the right team could maybe still be a legit starting quarterback. I don't know.
He could still be
Yeah.
either or. He could be a bridge or he could be the future. But I don't know that Denver wants
Giants,
to go that route.
Washington. I mean,
The Giants, it was that story out of the combine about the Giants
Yeah.
are unequivocally done with Daniel Jones. Look at the contracts, and we don't know that ours isn't going to be in this
Right,
conversation
yeah.
postscript. But when you look at the dollars that the Giants and the Broncos set on fire, if in fact Daniel Jones is done.
right.
It's not close money wise.
The Daniel
No,
Jones
it's not
thing-
close, but those are huge dollars.
Yeah, but at least the Giants, unlike the Browns and the Broncos, didn't give up anything to get Daniel Jones besides the draft pick they took.
Daniel Jones
that's
has
what
40
could make
million
the
this
Browns
year,
all
and then
time
it's gone.
worse.
Do you want Justin Fields, Mike?
No, I don't think Justin Fields that good. I'm gonna be honest.
He's better than Daniel Jones, no?
If the Giants are gonna get a quarterback, I want a rookie.
Okay.
Wow.
I don't know.
I think that the Raiders,
the Raiders, yeah. I think
the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Patriots.
So
make the
he's
most
familiar
sense.
with the OC, man. But Antonio Pierce is a former player, Super Bowl champion. And I like the player coaches, right? The guys that's former
Yeah.
players that end up being head coaches.
He, by the way, got, I think, the lowest grade in that NFLPA survey about, when the players graded that, which stunned me.
yeah, because
No. They voted it was Josh McDaniels.
No, I read that it was.
No.
No, it was Josh
It was
McDaniels
Josh-
got the F minus. He didn't even get an F. They had multiple players, but F
No,
minus.
No, what did Antonio get? He got an F.
No, he wasn't in it. This was voted before the season started when Josh McDaniels.
Oh, okay.
The players love Antonio Pierce.
Yeah, well, when I saw that,
It's
the
because they
grade for
voted.
that-
It was on Josh McDaniels who they were voting.
Oh,
on.
I didn't know that. Why? Wait a minute. So they took the survey before the season started?
Yeah, they do the survey from they said August through October is when it's conducted.
Why did anybody even report on that then? I wouldn't have sniffed that survey.
it's the off season.
I know, I
It's the
get it, but my
off-season.
God,
They was like,
know-
I'm gonna hold this to February. That's
The
what-
Bills
they are masters at
The
creating
Bills have been
headlines.
trying to get under the cap. They just cut one of their starting offensive linemen.
Bills have a cap
Deion
problem.
Deion Dawkins.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a cap problem.
Yeah, they do. They do. They did cut a lot of good players this offseason.
Boy, that's
A
why
lot of
that
them.
loss last year was so crippling for them, because their window, you know how it opens and closes.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be closer to being closed than it is to opening.
Yeah. It'd be
And-
interesting to see where Justin Fields end up though.
Yeah, he's going to be.
I don't
a
think
curiosity
I don't
ship.
think he's as bad as I know Mike is not high on him. I'm not that high on him. But last year to me, maybe my eyes was playing tricks on me. I thought he had a good season last
I think
year.
he did. I think he looked better. But the project that they were trying to turn him into a pocket passer, I just think that's a fail.
Yeah.
I think when you draft a quarterback like this, Baltimore did it the right way. Baltimore took a guy who, by the way, Lamar Jackson, if you compare his body type to the player he was coming out of Louisville to the player he is now, I give him a ton of credit. He has beefed up that upper torso. He was a stick coming out of college. The one thing that I think you have to be all in on when you draft a quarterback like that, why would you take off his cape?
Yeah.
And that's what Chicago
You drafted
did
a
to
dual
Justin
cap.
Fields.
You
Yeah.
drafted
You
a dual-
drafted him
to be
because
a dual
that's who
threat.
he is.
Yeah.
That's what led to his success. And then they're trying to tell you, it's like drafting a pitcher in baseball who lives on smoke, and then you try to turn him into an off-speed guy.
Wait a second. I guess the Bills did not cut Deion Dawkins because now Schefter's saying he just signed a 3-year, $60 million extension.
Can you imagine that? Dude
Well,
got a-
Wow.
Dawkins tweeted
Yeah,
it
Dawkins
was-
tweeted out he was leaving. I guess it was a little.
Yeah,
fakeroo.
Dawkins tweeted out, unless Schefter's wrong, unless Schefter made a mistake and he's signing that 3-year, $60 million deal with somebody else.
That'd be interesting to follow.
But that's what Schefter's saying now.
Next question, guys, as we continue to wait for some more moves to come through. We saw
Yeah.
the Jaguars trade a 6th-round pick for Mac Jones. Just to compare, the Browns got a 5th and 6th for Jerry Jeudy. The Jaguars gave up a 6th for Mac Jones. The backup quarterback discussion across the league, not just here in Cleveland, is a position that's getting way more attention, notoriety, and, frankly, value from general managers. Earl tweeted out he thinks it's a top 5 position on a team now over the weekend. Earl, right? Is that exactly how you worded it?
Yeah, I think as far as the level of priority, it's entered top 5 as far as level of importance
Earl's
and
way
priority.
out of pocket.
I think that's way
and
high.
the reason why I think it's top 5 is because last year, 22% of starting quarterbacks suffered a season-ending injury, and outside of the Cleveland Browns, there wasn't many teams that was able to have a sustained level of success
with the backup.
How many backup quarterbacks won playoff games last year?
Once their starters went out. And
well,
so to me,
but there's a reason. That's why there's adding value.
And to me, I think that a lot of GMs looked across the league and said, you know what? I need to make sure that I have a quality backup quarterback. I can't just have a guy like in years past.
I think Bull's looking at it a different
that's
way, and I would say the wrong way. You're saying, well, they didn't win any playoff games last year.
Yeah.
That's why you need them.
Yeah.
Because all the backup quarterbacks.
Well, it's the same
lost
guys.
playoff games.
You know.
So here's the way I'm looking at it. I think we're looking at it from a different point of view. I had said during the season last year, we are going to see a shift in the NFL in this offseason about how teams value backup quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. In the past, it was like, who's out there?
Let me just get him.
Hey, we drafted this guy in the 6th round. Come on over here if we need you.
I don't agree that it's been like that. It's been different. It's been based on whether you're paying a lot of money to your starter or not.
I agree with that part of it, but Bull, so as every team does this, they allocate their assets. So it's just like a family budget. Right. How much of our income this year is going to be spent on rent, food, and down the line is vacation, right? Mm-hmm. Like maybe the 6th or 7th thing you get to after you pay, take care of all of your primary expenses. And I think everyday living, people now are starting to value a work-life balance more than they did in the past.
That's
Why?
Facts.
Because mental health crises are through the roof.
That's
why?
Facts.
We've ignored vacation.
Stress-related deaths
So,
is up.
and I read this, and as I was reading this was a couple weeks ago, I read it, how Americans are now making a bigger priority of their budgetary spending and how much they give towards entertainment and vacation.
Right.
Travel.
Right.
And it makes perfect sense, the analogy to the NFL. It used to be bin 7. It's gradually moved up, where it's now in the top 5 for most American families because they've realized they overcompensated one way to where they're like, well, I got to take care of my priorities first. Then we had our mental illness issues were going up. People weren't taking vacations. They're like, screw this, man. I got to spend more money on my vacation. Mm-hmm. I think with the NFL and their budgets, they've looked at things that they prioritize as starting quarterback number 1. Right. Number 2, a great defensive end. Number 3, a great wide receiver. And then down the list, after corner and running back and safety and linebacker, way down there at the bottom was backup quarterback. Yeah. And I think what teams have realized over the last probably decade is that you have your biggest, it's like building a $5 million house on the Florida coast, but you don't take the flood insurance.
But Jay, the bottom line is there were a number of quarterbacks last year that were making no money that played well as backups. Look at Jake Browning, for example.
Hell, Joe Flacco.
Well, okay. So, spending big money on a backup doesn't necessarily get you a better player.
It gets you a commodity. It gets you. We talked about the building between free agency and the draft.
Yeah.
The draft is a put a blindfold on, turn off the lights, and throw the dart.
But does it? Because there aren't even 32 good enough starting quarterbacks. Well, Mac Jones. Are the Jaguars taking backup more seriously by getting Mac Jones? He sucks.
Here's what they know they're going to get with Mac Jones. Here's what they know they're going to get. They're going to get a guy that was a starter. He's experienced. What do the Browns have? Well, they've got a guy that came out of UCLA with a lot of hype, but not a lot of experience, and it showed.
I don't agree with that. After that first game against Baltimore, which was a tough spot, the next 2 games he played pretty well.
No one was going to say he was going to take us to the playoffs and we were going to win with them.
Okay, but you didn't win with Joe Flacco either. You can't. The bottom line is, with almost no exceptions, you're not going to win in the playoffs with a backup quarterback.
It's
so
happened.
why spend big money there?
Boy, you're making it sound like it's never happened.
It's rare.
Nick Foles won the Super Bowl as the backup quarterback. It's rare, but it happens.
We can always find one example. You don't spend big money. To say it's the 5th most important position is ridiculous.
If they were great, they'd be a starter.
Right.
Exactly.
So I think you're comparing them to the starting quarterback, and we're not. We're saying you have an opportunity to address your needs with number 33 to 75.
Right.
Okay? Because there's 75 quarterbacks in the NFL or so.
Yeah.
You can't get a 32 to 1. Those guys are already in jobs. So you can go and find somebody that's in the upper tier of the 33 to 50. That's what I think teams want to do.
And that's what I'm
that's what the
saying that
Mac
they're
Jones
doing.
move is. Mac Jones
I don't agree that that's
he's
what
not a
Mac-
great quarterback. If he was, he'd be a starter.
I think-
But of the 33 and down,
I don't
he's
agree.
a guy that raises eyebrows because he's been a
I
starter.
don't agree. I think C.J. Beathard's just as good. I don't think there's any difference.
Keep C.J.
I
Beathard
don't
out of
think
my
there's any
universe.
difference.
C.J. Beathard to me, I would keep
I don't think
him out
there's
of
any
my.
difference in him and Mac Jones.
I'd take Jake Browning before I'd take C.J.
But
Beathard.
last year you would have said, "Oh, that you want this guy or Jake Browning?" You would have laughed at Jake Browning. He never played.
How long was he in the Bengals system?
A couple of years.
I think that has something to do with it too.
Okay, so
the
maybe
one
you
thing
give-
that I said last year was
Yeah.
I think the guys that are going to have success are the guys that aren't new to the system, and by new I mean year one or year two. Now, if you've got a guy in your system for a number of years, and particularly if he's behind somebody who's really good, I feel really comfortable about that situation. The DTR thing, there's still going to be a lot of teams that have backup quarterbacks that are rookies. That's just the nature of the beast, or second-year guys. But I do think that after what happened last year with all of the teams that lost their starting quarterbacks, perhaps the one thing that we're going to see moving forward is teams are going to take insurance policies. Well, God, it's $600 a month for flood insurance on the Florida coast.
but where's
yeah,
the
but
proof
your
of
house
that?
is $5 million.
Well, we don't have any proof of that.
We're just having a debate.
No,
There's
no,
no proof
no.
of it at all. We're
No.
just saying that's what we think is happening.
Right. I mean, we can't have proof yet. We're
Right.
in that
Right.
cycle
Okay,
right now.
so once I
but
see
what I
proof
will
of
say
that,
is, of the
I'll see.
Mac Jones thing,
Yeah.
when was the last time we saw a team instantly make a move that was a trade where you give up an asset for a backup quarterback?
I'm sure it's happened. Who's paying
It's
it?
probably happened.
I'm sure it's
but
happened a million times.
It doesn't.
Jay, who's going to remember that from last year? A backup quarterback getting traded.
Bull, no,
Nobody's
you're
going to
missing-
remember
I
that.
just think
No.
Bull has been a little dismissive because when I seen it yesterday, the first thing I said was they're trying to get insurance in case Trevor Lawrence
Of course
gets hurt.
they are. And
then the
every
second
team
thing-
wants
What
that.
Right.
insurance? You can't win
And
with
then-
Mac
and then the
Jones.
second
They
part-
know that.
Let me ask you this. Do you have a better chance winning with Mac Jones, or do you have a better chance winning with whoever their backup was
I don't
last year?
know.
Mac Jones.
How do you know?
We don't know
how do you know?
We know nothing
Not
for
only
sure.
do we not know.
Okay,
so
but that's never
I read
changed.
something
Jay,
coming into
how
this
is that a
pre-
change, though?
Watch. I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
Watch. Let me make this point.
Yeah.
I think it was Schefter did this experiment. You guys may have seen it and read about it. Over the last 10 years, they decided, now this is dicey because this is very subjective.
Right.
They took all of the quarterbacks taken in the first round and they said, hit or miss. Now that's really tough. That's black and white, and it's not black and white. There are shades of gray in that.
Right.
Like Baker. I guess now we could say he's a hit, but if we'd have asked last year when Carolina cut his ass, he would have been a miss.
Alex Smith, 7 years
Alex
into his,
Smith
to his
before,
career.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
So here's what the study looked at. Of all the quarterbacks taken in the first round over the last 10 years, only 30% of them were considered by this panel to be hits. So we're talking about probably one of the most difficult positions to project in all of sports, okay? What they're doing, Bull, is increasing their odds from 6% with unknown commodity to 12% with Mac Jones.
They didn't have
I'm
an
not
unknown
saying-
commodity. They had a veteran backup in C.J. Beathard.
How did he do?
I don't know.
Well, no, I mean, we
played
do
like
know.
2 games.
We do know because they.
How
like
did
the
Mac
Browns,
Jones do? He was
like
he was awful.
right, but here's what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think you're conflating
But
it
you're
with.
saying this as if this is that a guy's never been traded for a 6th-round pick.
Bull.
We just saw it last year with Josh Dobbs.
Bull.
Well, it happens every year.
I think it's happened. It's going to happen more moving forward.
Are you trying to argue that for the first time in forever, teams would rather have the 33rd back?
No.
Wait, let me just finish. Would rather have the 33rd quarterback than the 55th as their backup? Wouldn't they always prefer that, all things being equal?
Of course they would.
Yes.
But here's what's happened.
Yeah.
Through time and through circumstance, they've lost track of that as a priority. And, Bull, this isn't
I don't
just
agree
me
with
talking.
that. Some teams
I
have.
have talked to a couple of executives,
Yeah.
none here in Cleveland,
Yeah.
in the NFL, that have, when I've asked them about this theory, they said, oh, absolutely. That's happening in real time before our eyes.
So what's
now,
the
this
proof?
was last November.
Yeah.
Okay, this was in November when
Yeah.
you're looking around going, now, the Kansas City Chiefs that won the Super Bowl, how many quarterbacks did they use?
1.
Okay, look at the teams that advanced in the playoffs. They were doing it with their
1 quarterback.
their starting
That's-
quarterback.
Yeah, and that's the way to advance.
Sure it is.
Rare exceptions.
Don't get hurt. But what we've said here on this panel, you
Yeah.
did, Jason did last year before the season started. Well, none of this matters. If Deshaun Watson gets hurt, the season's
right.
over. They can no longer take that approach, and here's why. The window is small. You can no longer take the approach that, well, if our starting quarterback gets hurt, the season's over. That's the same approach as saying, I'm going to build a $5 million house on the coast in Florida with no flood or hurricane insurance, and if it gets wiped out, it's a loss.
Let me back that up, though. Let me back that up because I said that yesterday, and I think the Cleveland Browns in particular made that the case, right? When you look at what the Cleveland Browns did last year, I think we can all agree that was the anomaly. That don't normally happen, right?
What do you mean with Joe Flacco?
Like with the 5 quarterbacks winning all these games with your backups,
that is
right?
absolutely
the
exception.
So here's the thing. This is what I thought about yesterday. The Browns and Kevin Stefanski made it so hard for that to be an excuse,
right?
That my starting quarterback got hurt.
Yeah.
Because I think now GMs, head coaches alike, they're getting together and say, man, if I can upgrade my QB2, let me. If I can get a quality dude.
So you're saying nobody was trying to upgrade their quarterback too?
Was that? Let me finish my point.
What we're saying is, because they were, everybody.
So what I'm saying is,
every spot is important. But
if I'm an owner,
it's more important now.
If I'm an owner,
I don't agree,
and my coach and my GM come to me and say, well, my starting quarterback ain't hurt. Man, what you want me to do? Give me another year. He's going to say, hey, they ain't use that excuse in
Build
Cleveland.
the roster with a quarterback
Build the roster around
that's a legitimate backup.
Yeah, I just think it's more important than what it was
One thing that I think
before.
you will agree happened.
Yeah.
There was a stretch where, and I remember vividly, where guys were drafted and 5 years later they were washed out of the league.
Yeah.
Remember that? And I'm talking about highly rated first-round guys. In Cleveland's case, sometimes they were out of the league in 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
But the one thing that was always intrigued me about Colt McCoy was there was always something to Colt. There was also always something that was missing with Colt. And I think it was here. And like just a toughness. But you'd watch him play and be like, God dang, man, this guy can move the football. And teams.
That New England game in Cleveland, man, was the game.
Well, that one stands out.
But
he was worth keeping around, where a lot of these guys that were drafted got a second contract that was not a big deal, and they were washed out of the league. And I always used to say, God dang, there's no way there's 32 quarterbacks, and I'm talking about 33 to 64, better than him.
But Jay, let me ask you.
But the league said, yeah, but we're not going to pay him.
All I'm saying is I'm not buying there's some sea change, and that I think it's always been the same way. It's ebbed and flowed to some degree. When you pay big money to a starting quarterback, those teams are still not going to pay big money to a backup.
I'm not saying big money.
Okay.
What did the Steelers just do? Now he's going to be their starting quarterback.
Yeah.
They just got a quarterback. This is why that deal is most scary, and we didn't talk about this. What that deal does for Pittsburgh is give them unbelievable flexibility with the rest of its roster, because they're not paying a quarterback.
Right. Okay.
So
that has nothing to do with this conversation.
Well, here's why it's interesting.
Yeah.
When Russell won his Super Bowl, he was on a rookie deal, making no money.
Right.
And the Seahawks had the flexibility to build a deep and strong roster everywhere else with the money that other teams are spending on their quarterback. That's why it's an advantage. That's why
that has nothing to do with this backup quarterback conversation.
It doesn't. It kind of transitioned to that. But what I would say to you on the backup point specifically, because you're focusing in on, I'm not saying that teams are going to go get big name quarterbacks to be their backup. I'm not. I still think that in the NFL, we pretty much know who the top 10 guys are. We also know who 10 through 20 are.
Yeah.
And 20 through 30. After that, I think leagues have pretty much said, well, it doesn't matter after that, because he's our backup.
See, I don't agree with that. I think some teams feel that way, and some teams are just like, we're spending, we only have a certain amount of dollars to spend.
Sure.
We're spending a ton on our starter. We can't.
Sure.
Because if he goes down, we're probably not going to do anything anyway.
But
if you're realistic about it, the bottom line is the pool of backup quarterbacks is unchanged.
No, it's not. It changes every year.
That's fact. Mac Jones is a backup now. He was a starter last year.
The pool is. I don't mean
Pickett was a starter last year. He's a
I
backup
don't mean
this
there's
year.
not a couple of guys that change. I'm saying the basic pool is mostly the same guys year in and year
If Daniel
out.
Jones get cut, he's going to be a backup quarterback this year.
Give me what will prove that teams are taking a higher priority in quarterback.
There's nothing to prove
Teams that
either
spend money,
way.
teams that make moves to get them.
I don't think it's nothing to prove.
And when I
either
talk
way.
to the executives, when
Teams
I ran my
always make
theory
moves
by
to
them,
get backups.
when I ran my that's where I think you're wrong. In the past, teams that have a quarterback won't draft a quarterback. Like when you've got Patrick Mahomes and he's 23 years old and he's going to the Super Bowl, you're not going to draft a quarterback. You're just not. If you're smart, you're going to go out and you're going to find a guy like they did who once upon a time was a starter, would love to hold a clipboard and wear a baseball cap for another $4 million a year and be a backup to a guy like Patrick Mahomes. So
and that's what the Chiefs did for a number of years.
it was brilliant. It
Yeah.
worked.
Got a signing, guys.
Oh, okay.
Jonathan Grenard
How much and where?
is a Minnesota Viking.
Damn.
I'm sorry, Earl. We'll discuss the Jonathan Grenard signing in 1
I don't know.
sec.
You know what?
Hold on, before you do that, Bull, I got a quick word from Game Time. If you're looking to get tickets to any sporting event, music show, comedy event, theater, play, whatever you want, there's no better place to buy your tickets online than Game Time. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from their seat, and the best price guarantee, Game Time takes all the guesswork out of buying tickets. Just download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, download Game Time, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
Man, I was trying to sell. I mean, I was selling it too. I was like, man, he's 27,
Well,
coming off the best year of his career.
you
You
know,
got the defensive line coach
the good
here in
news
Cleveland.
is-
It was just so many things that I thought lined up.
But he
would-
may be he may be on fraud alert, according to my man Cleve TA, who's the analytics guru of Cleveland. Mike steals all his information from TA, right?
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Come on,
When
wait.
we did
time
free
out,
agents
time out.
last week, Mike
Time
stole
out.
everything.
Whoa, whoa,
Time
whoa.
out,
I
Bull.
took
Bull,
one
you're not
name
going to
off
do my
TAs.
boy like that.
I just did.
Hold on.
I did him like that.
No,
I
we're
did
not
him
doing
like
that.
that.
We're
I
not
did him
doing
like
that.
that.
We're
I
not
did
doing
him
that
like
on the
that.
set.
I did him like that.
There's going to be crossover. You can't show me two lists where
I
there's
know,
not
I
the
know.
same guy when you're
No, no,
talking
He
about.
didn't copy him word for word. I'm busting his balls. But he took a couple of guys.
TA got me to switch my running back from Swift to Antonio Gibson. He did a great job.
And
He convinced
Grenard, he didn't like Grenard. He
Oh, by
said,
the way, who was the first running back gone?
yeah.
me. Swift.
And you
I know.
bailed on him.
You
I did
bailed
bail
on
on him.
Swift?
You bailed on Swift?
Shame on you.
You ain't
Well,
tell me that part.
On Friday, no,
Now
I
Earl's with me.
got swayed by TA, who's great, by the way. TA is
Yeah.
awesome. But
is
yeah,
good.
we're waiting for the deals the numbers from the Gennard deal. A new report out, though, from 1 minute ago. The Browns are showing interest in Zach Moss. So not Gibson, not Swift, not Pollard.
I think that
Zach
was
Moss.
G. Bush's guy.
That was
Zach
G's guy.
Moss.
That
Yeah.
was G's guy.
Well,
Moss
G.
was
Bush also
Pollard.
wanted Saquon and Derrick Henry. So, if you
Yeah,
take
that's true.
every
Does,
running
does
back.
that tell you guys anything?
By the way, you know where Derrick Henry is going. Baltimore. I'll be.
It
Isn't he a
feels
perfect
very
Baltimore
iffy.
guy?
La, la,
Does
la.
that tell you guys anything?
I hope that doesn't happen.
The Browns don't show interest in Zach Moss?
It's I've come around in the last couple of weeks about the Browns spending some money on a veteran running back because to pair with Nick Chubb, but because Nick Chubb's injury was so serious, and we don't know for sure he's going to be ready week one. I want another veteran
breaking
back.
news real quick. Sorry,
Breaking
Paul.
news.
Tony Pollard to the Titans, replacing Derrick Henry.
Remember the Titans?
So Tony Pollard.
That was
to
my guy
Tennessee.
for the Browns. Was
How about
Pollard.
these running backs getting some love?
I know they're the first ones off the board.
I mean, it's
two
so
of the first
funny.
three.
The safety sitting around like, ain't this something?
I know. The league is so funny how it just shifts. I'm not saying that they're,
but
suddenly this big priority, but teams are making moves.
But
to
the
make sure they're
safety's all of a
covered.
sudden sitting along like, no, we ain't getting paid? Really?
Demario Davis, new deal with the Saints. That was one of the worst Browns trades in
Trades
recent
ever.
years, getting rid of him.
Yeah, I know.
Ever.
That was stupid. He's one of the best linebackers in the league. But, yeah, it is. I'll be curious to see what Pollard, because when we were doing our free agency predictions for the Browns, like what we would do,
Right.
I had Pollard to the Browns for 2 years, $12 million. But
I actually liked your list. You had two.
Thank
You
you.
had Grenard. You had Pollard.
I did have Grenard,
Yeah.
but he might be on fraud alert, and I might be on fraud alert.
He also spent about 10 to 15 million.
I did. I went over the cap. I went over the
allocated-
cap.
Well, Bull's definitely going to go over the cap because Bull and
It's
G. Bush
Jimmy's money.
both the best.
Yeah,
It's
right.
Jimmy's money.
G. Bush wants a space shuttle.
Yeah.
G. Bush wants everything. He's his Operation Stockpile. He doesn't give a rat's
doesn't care.
ass about
G
stuff.
wanted 87
Jimmy,
Chevy, Chevy
spending,
Cutlass that
Jimmy.
he could put on foes and
Keep
put
spending.
some 12s in it.
You just got $1 gazillion for Pilot Flying J. Let's go. Those places are gross, aren't they? Oh, my God.
Yeah,
I
I don't spend a lot of time in trucks.
had to. There was one time, you know Keith Britton, who was our producer,
Yeah.
my producer, longtime producer.
Heard
on
you
the fan.
talk about him a lot.
So I was going to his wedding in his hometown. I can't think of the name of the town. Some small town in southeastern Ohio.
Yeah.
And I had a suit, but I didn't want. It was a hot day because it was the summer.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to wear the suit for a 2-hour drive or an hour and a
Right.
half, whatever it was.
So you just wore
so
the
like
jacket.
15 minutes. No.
Or the shirt, I mean.
15 minutes before I got to the wedding, I pulled into a Pilot Flying
To
J.
shower.
No, not to shower.
Oh,
I
I
didn't shower.
was going to say, I've
But
never.
to change my clothes.
Oh, I see.
I just
see.
put on my suit, and it was gross in there.
Yeah, you get in and out as fast as you possibly can.
Hey, shout out to Keith. Funny story, real quick. When we get back to business, man. Keith is a big dude.
Is he?
Big,
Oh, he is
big
jacked.
ass dude, right? And I remember sometimes a caller called in and was going crazy on Keith. And the only thing I kept thinking was he must have never seen what Keith looked like.
Yeah, he is jacked.
Teeth would rip him.
Yeah.
If I had to take anybody in the media,
For sure.
I would probably take him in a fight as my partner.
For sure.
Wow, that's interesting.
Well,
I mean, let's talk. We're not talking about a lot.
No, but you guys, I mean, G. Bush is the size of a house.
This dude is like a baby Brock Lesnar.
But G. Bush is a mess.
Keith is chiseled. He ain't just a big dude.
Yeah.
This dude is chiseled.
All right.
Question for you guys.
He's a great guy.
So Grenard's off the board. Pollard's off the board. We'll see what happens next, but it was announced last night that Eric Armstead, the defensive end/tackle hybrid defensive lineman from San Francisco, is likely to be released. They could not agree to some sort of contract restructuring.
Right.
He's older, but has been very productive and versatile on the line. Thoughts on the Browns potentially going after Eric Armstead?
To me, he's too old.
How old is he now?
He's got to be 30.
If that's the case, he just brings the Darius Smith back. If you're going to go that route, just bring somebody back
He's
that was
30,
already
by the
in the
way.
system.
Well, he's a tackle, he's a tackle, right?
When's he going to be
He
31?
switched from edge. He was drafted as an edge. He plays more interior now.
When's he going to be 31?
November 15th, so 31.
Oh, he a Scorpio. Never mind. Sign him up. Bring him on.
Bring him.
And the numbers for Grenard, according to Adam Schefter, $76 million over 4 years, 42 guaranteed.
Wow.
4 years,
20 million a
76
year.
mil.
Inflation has
19
finally
million
caught
a
up
year.
with the NFL. These dudes are saying, hey, groceries are up, gas
Yeah.
is up, I got to make a living.
He say, "Mama, you can go retire now." I got
Josina
all that
Anderson
rookie deal, man.
says the Pollard deal also a 3-year deal with the Titans, similar to Swift. We don't know the money yet, but
So it's probably around 2020.
I would guess it'd be in the 20 to 25 range.
Yeah.
You know what the interesting thing, though?
yeah.
Only $14 million of Swift's was guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, it's very rare that the last year of a contract is guaranteed, outside of now we've seen with some of the quarterbacks.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I'll tell you if the by the way, Deion Dawkins was just messing with everybody with that tweet. That's why I and everybody, because he put out a tweet saying he was going on.
Like Ryan Clark.
Yeah.
That was smooth.
G took the bait.
Hey, that was smooth.
Well, it worked.
I watched the whole video of him putting the coat on. He like, so I've done everything that I
worked.
could do.
Yeah,
you know, but
it worked.
That's the blueprint.
Did you see him talking about it on the podcast?
Yeah.
Where he was basically saying, I'm all about a negotiation, but I'm not about,
So
extortion.
when people be asking me, like, I've only been in this game 3 years, and when people like, man, you work 3-4 jobs, 6 days, 7 days a week, I have the mindset of be a great stewardess now, put in the work now, earn my dues so that by the time I'm your age, I don't have to work as much, and I get the big on the back end from putting in the work on the front
My
end.
dad, who knew nothing about the media business but was smart about life and business and decisions in general, said my first job I was making $15,000 a year. I made no money. And, it's tough when you're out of school. Even though I was fortunate enough not to have any debt, I still, you want to live your life. I barely make my bills.
Right.
And my dad said, what you need to do is you need to look at it as the investment that you're making in your future.
Play the long
If you
game.
don't do this, you'll never get to that.
Play the long game.
So it's a long game.
You got to play the long game.
And it's smart for you to play it that way.
Yeah.
By the way, if the Browns do not, there's rumors that the Browns are in on Christian Wilkins, the big fringe defensive
Do
tackle.
we think there's a legitimate chance that'll
I mean,
happen?
there's rumblings about it. I guess. I didn't expect the Browns to spend big money on a tackle since they did last year.
Wait, update on the Pollard deal. Sorry to cut you off, both. 3 years, $24 million. Almost the exact.
Same.
We'll find out the guaranteed money in a
It's the
second.
exact
Almost
same
the exact
total
same
contract.
Those
as
numbers are
Swift.
identical. I bet 14 to 15 million of it's guaranteed.
Yeah.
So that seems to be the new bar for the going rate for a.
And those guys aren't even great. The top back.
So that means Derrick Henry's
they're
been
good
27, 28 maybe?
No, Derrick Henry's older though, so he's not going to get a long.
Yeah, but Derrick Henry still had a hell of a season last
He's still
year.
good. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. But I think actually, and the Browns have had a history of signing ex-Bengals.
Damn you,
I could
boy.
see
Why you
DJ
put that in my head?
I could see DJ Reader ending up on the Browns.
I had Derrick Henry to Dallas. Now he got me.
What, going to the Ravens?
Yeah, I had him going to Dallas.
Well,
now,
Dallas is absolutely.
I mean, he could end up in Dallas.
yeah, I just hope it's
They
not
don't have
Baltimore.
who's there. They don't have a back.
No, and that's a Jerry Jones move if I've
But
ever
he
seen
is
one.
right. I can see the dark visor, the purple jersey, and the black pants
Bro,
now.
if he ends up in our division,
I just feel like that would be a Ravens move to sign Derrick Henry. I hope it doesn't. I don't want it to happen either.
but you know what? You talk about putting a bottle on a guy, putting a lid on a guy. What did they get? Didn't he have like 6 carries for 14 yards when he faced us last year?
Henry. No, it was
absolutely nothing.
It was like 10. He couldn't get anything going. But
No, he had nothing going.
Yeah.
And I seen something yesterday. I tweeted about it. I guess they was talking about Patrick Queen, Jadeveon Clowney, and somebody else.
All going to Seattle. Yeah.
And I was like, good, get the hell gone.
Wait,
I said,
wait.
Well, because the Ravens DC is now the.
Yeah.
So I was like, get the
Seattle.
hell gone. I was like, Patrick Mahomes won't be able to stay with the Ravens. That's so sad. Said nobody that cheers for every other team in the AFC
no kidding.
North.
Get him out of
Queen.
here.
Patrick Queen. Get
Get him out of here.
Yeah.
I would love that. First of all, they got him.
It is.
No, I'm thinking of Smith. They got Smith on
Roquan
a steal
Smith,
from the Bears.
It is interesting how the money, for running backs, after been such a big talking point,
Yeah,
that they're, and it may affect Nick Chubb. Listen again, Nick Chubb's not healthy.
Are they? Why we heard early that it was probably a certainty that the restructuring of Chubb and Deshaun were imminent, but
It was one of the questions I wanted to ask.
Yeah,
Are
I
you
don't
guys
think
surprised
I would not
we
restructure
haven't heard yet?
Deshaun
you wouldn't.
unless I had to. I'd wait because let's face it, at this point we don't know what he's going to be.
Isn't his cap hit $85 million?
I think it's 60 something next year. And the reason I wouldn't restructure it is because right now I'm already on the hook for some dead money with him in year 6 after the contract's over.
Yes, you are.
If he falls on his face again this year, then it's over
Then
in
you
my
extend
mind.
the length of pain.
And why
after.
keep extending that if I got to move on from
Well,
him?
because if you're basically doubling down on your bet, Bull.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you this
Yeah.
too because I don't know where you guys would land on this. Let's jump in the time machine, and all things have to be considered here: the salary for Deshaun, what we gave up for Deshaun, what Baker is now being paid. If you could jump into the Wayback Machine and go back in time before that deal was made and change one decision in the history of the franchise, that decision would be you're going to invest in Baker, not at the $30 million level that he was wanting then.
Yes.
But 20 to 25 could have gotten it done.
I personally would not have. I would have moved on from Baker, but I also, if I could go back
I
now,
just said
would not have made the Deshaun Watson
right,
trade.
but one
Neither
is,
one of them
but one is dependent on the other. You don't you don't move on from Baker if you don't have Deshaun. See, I understand the fact that you got a chance to get this this once in a generational guy that he looked like he was going to be. He's got a lot of baggage. We don't know that he'll ever be that guy again. But you've made the decision that you're going to punt on Baker. I always go back to the comment that Kevin Stefanski made when he was asked about the Baker move, about finally releasing or trading Baker. Before the Watson move, he said, we can move forward.
But what else
with
is he
Baker.
going to say?
If you're done with them, you're done with them. So it doesn't matter.
Maybe he didn't think they were realistically going to get a better option.
Well, I'm not sure that in all of the parties involved, I think the least on board with the move was Stefanski.
Who knows?
Then I think it was Andrew Barry. Then I think the guy
I
makes
think
these
the
decisions.
entire organization felt Baker wasn't good enough to win in the playoffs, and they decided to move on.
Right. So
at the
what
time,
I'm
it made
saying is-
total sense to me.
What I'm
so
saying
I can't
is,
kill him for it now.
if we can go back in the time machine, and I'm not saying change both moves.
Yeah.
I'm just saying
If I could change one move,
if you could.
honestly, if I could change one move about the whole thing.
No, but the move is Baker for Watson. If you could undo that and go back 2 years, knowing what we know now, would you or would you double down on that trade?
I would. If
moving
that was my
forward.
only choice, I'd stick with Watson and hope.
I'm
that he
being
turns around
honest.
next
I
year.
would have doubled down on that trade. I'm with Bull. I can't go back now and
And
say,
I'm not nearly as confident.
but I would have.
And I'm still where I was at the time.
Yeah, like
I can win with this guy.
It is
was proven.
so funny, man, because I remember I was still part-time at the Fan, and I was working at a law firm, like just trying to make ends meet. And I remember I was plugged in, had the radio on, listening to this guy.
Yeah.
And Bull went
By myself.
absolutely
Bull ordered
ape
Super Bowl tickets,
shit.
I think, that day.
Bull went crazy.
Yeah.
When like the Browns made the trade, he came, shortest break. I'm coming right back. I'm going straight to the phones. I want to hear from the people.
Yeah.
So like I remember how excited he was. I matched that energy. At the time.
I think in the end the goal is to win the Super Bowl. I don't think you could win a Super Bowl with Baker. I didn't. I still don't. I'm not going to argue that he hasn't played better than Deshaun Watson last year. He obviously did.
Yeah.
But I still don't think he's good enough to win with. That's how the Browns felt. I think at this point it's pointless.
Well,
but-
here's the thing.
Yeah.
Next March, we'll do the same thing because we'll have another year of hay in the barn. We'll see what Deshaun Watson is going to become. We'll see whether Baker can sustain one good season and slingshot it, because he's been checkerboard all through his career.
Yeah.
Good, bad, now good. Let's see what he does next year. But I think it's worth discussing next March when we've got 60% of the contract will already be done.
Sure, then it'll be a different
And then we'll be able to say, we've seen more of Deshaun than we're going to see. Do you still think that was the right move? And
Let me do some
for the
super
record, I
chats.
wouldn't have done it then, and I still wouldn't do it today.
Let me get some super chats in real quick in case anything breaks in the final 5 minutes of the show. If you're watching, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Totally free and helps us get UCSS out to everyone, not just in Cleveland, but anyone on the interweb looking for some Browns content. First super chat today comes from NBA Mott, who just says, let's go dog pound. Skilly says, it's been a while since I've been able to watch a show live. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on Jerry Jeudy. That clip will be posted here in just a second. Anthony Womack says we need to discuss the lack of ball movement after initial play calls resulting in nothing. Players for the Cavs standing around, allowing the defense to get set. Patrick S. says, keep an eye on Jay. I thought he was going to jump on Bull at some point. Two more. Zane Lopez says, how about Ohio State and their March Madness tournament chances? How far did they go in the tournament, the Big Ten tournament, to get one of the last bubble spots?
I have no idea.
Semifinals at least.
Ohio State boat raced Rutgers yesterday.
They did.
Was that at Rutgers too? Is that at the rack?
Pretty sure.
I think
Don't
it
quote me,
was.
I'm pretty sure. They got to make the semifinals, I think.
By the way, speaking of Rutgers, shout out to my son who coached another All-American long jumper over the weekend.
Congratulations.
Double shout out to Corey because he's one of the few people that actually makes sense on what the Browns should do at wide receiver in free agency. So
good. I raised him well. Although he, by the way, is on the opposite side of the Baker debate
semifinals.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, he was all in on
Really?
Deshaun Watson from jump.
Hey, what I've noticed, because
he was a huge Baker fan, but he's like, you give me Deshaun
we
Watson.
follow each other on social media. Me and Corey think alike. I don't know if that's
funny.
a good thing or a bad thing.
That's a good thing.
Corey's the homie,
because you're
way.
both
By the
great
way,
guys.
Update on Baker's contract. If you want the details here, only $40 million is guaranteed, not $50.
That's an even better deal for the
He
Bucs.
gets a $28.875 million signing bonus, $40 million fully guaranteed, $10 million more.
Wait.
Yeah,
That number of fully guaranteed,
yeah,
more than 2/3 of that is the signing bonus?
almost 3/4. Yes,
Wow.
yeah, $10 million more would become fully guaranteed a year from now.
So okay.
So they really could get out of it after 1 year if they want.
They
If
could.
he sucks next year and they want to move on, they could.
They could. That's a
It'll
great
cost them some.
It's a great deal for both
It's really
parties.
great for both
But
sides.
I like it now. I like it more for the Bucs than for him.
Yes, $30 million base salary for 25, 40, $30 million base salary for this year. Well, not really, because most of it's signing bonus. $30 million base salary for 25, $40 million base salary for 26, $5 million in incentives each year. So there you go.
And the thing with Baker's contract that got that beautiful yellow highlight, he plays in Florida. No state
income tax.
Last super chat
7%
comes from
savings,
Michael
right?
McGee.
Terrible schools, but whatever.
Schools are getting better, though.
Michael McGee says, I'm married in a UNC family, and the great debate with me being a Buckeye, what's a better rivalry, UNC Duke in basketball or Ohio State Michigan in football?
We've talked about this in various iterations my whole career. It's Ohio State, Michigan.
I think so,
Football.
but we're biased.
We are
but
biased.
I don't,
but when ESPN counted down the greatest rivalries in sports, Ohio State, Michigan was right at the top.
I'm biased, but I know both sides of this very well.
Are you a big Duke fan or North
No,
Carolina?
so Jawad Williams played for North Carolina.
Okay.
And being integrated in that, I know the whole Duke North Carolina thing. But then my cousin played football for Ohio State, so I really saw the Ohio State Tucson.
I think part of it is
close
because
to
there's only one game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And football's bigger.
Football's bigger.
And the game means so much more.
Yes.
What does the Duke North Carolina game mean now in the regular season?
In fact, they play twice a year. Like if Ohio State and Michigan played twice a year, it would water that rivalry down too.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that it's, but
football rivalries are bigger, just in general.
I agree. I think football is bigger as a sport.
That's right.
And by the way, when men's basketball slips behind women's basketball in popularity, like, are you really going to argue? Because are the Duke North Carolina women these heated rivals?
I would
past?
Yeah, I would argue that there's some women's rivalries right now in college basketball that are way bigger than any
look
men's
at
South
rivalry.
Carolina, LSU.
man.
We'll talk about that in overtime. Last move I've seen online, it's not a signing, it's a release. The Packers have released David Bakhtiari, the all-pro left
old.
tackle.
Yeah.
Old, injured, when he plays, still very good. I can't imagine the Browns having any interest, but something to keep an eye on. The Jets, whose offensive line was terrible last year, have his former quarterback and very good friend Aaron Rodgers.
That would make sense.
On the
If you want to go the old route.
Well, nothing else they've done in free agency has been good
I'm
for the
convinced
Jets.
that the Jets are going to be the Jets forever.
I think most Jets fans would agree with you.
And now the Giants have become the Jets, which is most
they're
perplexing to me because the Giants were always like one of those Tiffany franchises in the league.
Not anymore.
You looked at the Steelers, you looked at the Giants, the Patriots, but boy, they haven't even been to the playoffs in 10 years, right, Mike?
no, they won a playoff game last year. Daniel Jones beat Kirk Cousins.
Oh, they did?
That's right.
Yeah, they
I
did.
thought I read
That's the-
something over the weekend that said none of the New York sports franchises
Have won. It's been a while since the New York
And that's
team has
the
won a
first-
championship.
That's the
Championship
first
for
time,
sure.
Mike, to use the word "we" when referring
about
to the
the
New
Giants. I
York
didn't say we.
Giants in a long time.
I didn't say we.
I
said
told you
we.
Daniel Jones was a fraud. I was right about that one.
I hate when they draft him. I was pissed.
I was more
on
shocked
overtime.
when they signed him to the new deal.
Yeah.
I look at that like, wait a minute.
I knew it was bad when he had an 80-yard run.